Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Baiju's Exam Prep IAS. This is Shyam Kagod here. Now, before I start the discussion, if there is no issue with the sound, please give me a thumbs up so that I understand that I'm audible and I can start the discussion. Audible to everyone? Okay, now let's start. So, yesterday, what we have done? Yesterday, we started with the concept of budget and finance commission, correct? Budget and finance commission. Now, what we have discussed in budget, basically the term budget is not mentioned in the constitution. Rather, under Article 112, we have a annual financial statement. Government of India, that is union government, right? Union government generally announces a budget for a financial year, and this particular budget consists of multiple documents. The most important documents are one, the appropriation bill as well as the finance bill. Correct? Appropriation and finance bill. In appropriation bill, government will provide all the details of expenditures that they are going to incur, and this expenditure that they will be incurring, they will withdraw from the consolidated fund of India. And on the other side, on the other side, finance bill will consist of information regarding what are the sources of income. I repeat, what are the sources of income? From what source government will be collecting income or receipt in a simple way. After that, we have discussed right certain important other concepts related to budgeting. For example, gender budgeting, idea of a gender budgeting. Now, because I'm using the term gender budgeting, please do let me know. Today you have read Hindu newspaper, all of you, right? Respond to me. All of you have read the Hindu newspaper. In Hindu newspaper, central page. I'm talking about central page, by the way. Was there an article regarding right gender inequalities in India? Let me know, was there an article regarding gender inequalities between men and women in terms of employment, in terms of payment, etc., etc. Right, yesterday only we had a brief discussion regarding that. Today there was an article, very nice article, by the way. Read that if you have not yet read. Right, so gender budgeting we have discussed, the concept of outcome budgeting we have discussed, the concept of the zero based budgeting, idea of a zero based budgeting also we have discussed. Then we have seen how does government introduce the budget documents in the parliament, how do they get it passed, right? Basically how the budgets are prepared and passed in India. Then we looked at the budget accounts, very important. That's purely economics, very, very important. Budget accounts. If you remember, we divided the budget accounts into two parts. One was called as a revenue account, second one was called as a capital account. Correct? One was called as a revenue account, second one was referred as a capital account. What is the difference between a revenue account and a capital account? In revenue account, we will have incomes, that is receipts as well as expenditures, but neither the receipts or expenditures will change the assets or liabilities of the government. These are basically going to be incurred, that is paid or received by the government during the day-to-day activities, during the course of day-to-day activities. On the other side, we have a capital account. Capital account again will consist of both incomes, that is receipts, as well as expenditures. And what is the importance of the capital account? Both incomes as well as expenditures, that is the receipts as well as expenditures, will talk about change in the assets or liabilities of government of India. Change in the assets or liabilities of government of India. Then we looked at the different types of revenue expenditure, revenue receipts, capital expenditure, and capital receipts. This is what we have discussed yesterday. And after that, the most important part that we discussed was concept of deficits. Correct? Concept of deficits. Right? In case of deficits, we have discussed the first four types of deficits. If you remember it correctly, first four types: revenue deficit, effective revenue deficit, third one was fiscal deficit, fourth one was primary deficit. We have discussed the four types of deficits. What's a revenue deficit? Whenever your revenue expenditure is greater than revenue receipts, it is called as revenue deficit. And I told you yesterday, the market, right, or the golden rule in the market is that we should not be having revenue deficit. For a simple reason, we have a revenue deficit, it simply means we are going to borrow from the market. All of you okay with this? If you have a revenue deficit, it simply means you're going to borrow from the market. But this borrowing, are you using the borrowing for creation of assets, or you're going to use it for day-to-day expenditure, that is consumption purposes? Under revenue side, we generally do not have any kind of creation of asset. Hence, we say having revenue deficit is not good. We should reduce the revenue deficit to 0%. After that, we have effective revenue deficit. Right? That is basically revenue deficit minus grants for creation of capital assets. Third one is a fiscal deficit, which represents borrowings done by the government in this financial year. Borrowings are done by the government in this financial year. That is called as a fiscal deficit. Then there is a concept of primary deficit, right? What is a primary deficit? Primary deficit represents the difference between the fiscal deficit as well as interest payment that is done by the government. And the argument is very simple. The primary deficit will represent what is the strength of the finances in the current financial year. I repeat, what is the importance of primary deficit? It represents what is the strength of revenues of government of India in the current financial year. That is primary deficit. Now, last two concepts were left out. Let me continue. Let me pick it up from there. One is a budget deficit. Second one is a monetized deficit. One is budget. Second one is monetized deficit. Now, what is this idea for budget deficit? Earlier, underline the term earlier. Earlier, that is after independence, till very recently, till 1990s, government used to calculate only two deficits. I'll repeat the statement, listen carefully. Earlier, right, earlier, that is after independence, till very recently, till 1990s, government used to calculate only two deficits. One was called as a budget deficit, second one was a revenue deficit. Today, we calculate revenue deficit, but we have discontinued, I repeat, we have discontinued, right, the concept of budget deficit. Now, what is this budget deficit? Let me explain it. Budget deficit represents the excess of total expenditure compared to total receipts. I'll repeat the statement. Budget deficit represents the difference between or the excess of total expenditure over total receipts. Meaning what? The budget deficit is when the government will spend more money compared to how much money or how much income the government is earning. Now, many of you will basically say, so the budget deficit as well as fiscal deficit both look same. Many of you will have this kind of a doubt later also. Many of you will basically say the budget deficit as well as fiscal deficit both look the same. Answer is no, both are not one and the same. The budget deficit was used earlier, not calculated today. Why you'll understand now? Fiscal deficit is a much better indicator compared to budget deficit. How? Let me explain it. Earlier, government of India, imagine they will spend 100 crore rupees. Okay, imagine government of India will spend 100 crore and including the borrowings from the market. I repeat, including the borrowings from the market, imagine government will generate a revenue of 90 crore rupees. Is it okay? I'll repeat it again. Imagine earlier, government would spend, let's say, 100 crore rupees, and including market borrowings, government will have 90 crore rupees. Then can I simply say, in this case, deficit is 10 crore rupees. Anybody has a problem with this? Deficit in this example is 10 crore rupees. This deficit was called as budget deficit. This deficit is referred to as budget deficit. Anybody has a problem? Please do let me know right now. The total expenditure would be 100 crore and the total income or the receipts collected, including borrowings from the market by issuing government bonds, etc., would be 90 crore rupees. Even then, there would be a shortfall of 10 crore. This was called as a budget deficit. Now, in order to bridge this budget deficit, in order to bridge this particular budget deficit, government would simply borrow this particular 10 crore rupees, would borrow this particular 10 crore rupees from Reserve Bank of India. All of you okay with this particular sequence? Anybody has a problem? Let me know. Anybody has a problem? If nobody has a problem, I'll go forward. Process is simple. Earlier, there was no fiscal deficit. I repeat, earlier, there was no fiscal deficit. Right? Government would basically say, I've spent 100, but including market borrowings, I have collected 90 crore rupees. So there is a gap, there's a shortfall, there's a shortage of 10 crore rupee. This was referred to as budget deficit, total expenditure minus total income, including market borrowings. That would be budget deficit. Then this particular budget deficit, what the government would do is, they would simply borrow from RBI, issue government securities, sell the government securities to Reserve Bank of India, and collect 10 crore rupees from RBI. This was actually followed by Government of India. Now, please tell me, if Government of India will borrow from RBI like this, will that increase money supply in the economy? Let me know. If Government of India will borrow from RBI in this way, will that increase money supply in the economy? My dear, how many of you remember direct monetization? Let me know. Right? Direct monetization, indirect monetization, etc. How many of you remember RBI? Right? So argument is very simple. If government will sell the government securities to RBI and borrow from RBI, that will increase money supply. That will cause inflation. This is the precise reason this process has been discontinued. This process has been discontinued. Now, many of you will basically say, but sir, now if government is having a shortfall of 10 crore, what will the government do? Government will borrow again from the market. Very simple. Understand this. Government now, rather than going to RBI and borrowing from RBI, they will not do that. Imagine earlier out of 90 crore rupees, let's say hypothetically 15 crore was market borrowings. Is it okay? 15 crore was market borrowings. So, right, if you exclude 15 crore, understand this logic. If you exclude 15 crore from 90 crore, how much will be your non-debt creating receipts? I'll write here. Your total expenditure is 100 crore. And if you remove 15 crore, that is market borrowings from 90 crore, the non-debt creating receipts will be 75 crore rupees. Will be 75. Some of you are making wrong calculations. 90 minus 15. 90 minus 15. Right? It will be 75 crore. So how much is the shortfall now? The shortage will be 25 crore. Will government borrow anything out of this 25 crore from RBI? Will government borrow anything out of this 25 crore to bridge this 25 crore from RBI? No, government will not borrow from RBI. Government will borrow completely this 25 crore from the market. Correct? And can I call this 25 crore as a fiscal deficit? Yes or no? Can I call this 25 crore as fiscal deficit? So whatever is the shortfall, okay? Whatever is the shortfall, government will basically borrow from the market, not from RBI, will borrow from the market now. That is basically called as a fiscal deficit. Earlier, it was a budget deficit. We have discontinued it. Why? Government borrowing from RBI, it will lead to inflationary trend in the market. That is the reason this has been discontinued. Now let me go to the next one here. Monetized deficit. What do you mean by monetized deficit? Monetized deficit simply means RBI will print money and give it to Government of India to bridge the deficit in the budget. Is it okay? I'll repeat it again. RBI printing money. RBI will print money and give it to Government of India to bridge the deficit. That is called as monetization of the deficit or monetized deficit. Now tell me, do we follow monetization of the deficit? Think of it. After all of this, do you think we follow monetization of the deficit? Some of you are saying yes, great. No, we don't follow monetization of the deficit. Okay, so we do not follow monetization. Reason is basically it will promote, it will fuel inflation in the economy. Okay, that is the reason even monetized deficit has been discontinued. So budget deficit discontinued, monetized deficit discontinued, and that will be very much amply clear to you when you look at this particular graph. In this graph, do you see budget deficit? Do you see monetized deficit? No, only four deficits are there: fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, effective revenue deficit, and primary deficit. Only four types of deficits we follow even today. Next year, when you're writing exams, next year, again, in whichever you're writing your the exams. Right? Don't say, sir, I'm writing in 2026, but you say next year. In whichever year you're writing exams, in that year, the budget documents are published. Please have a look at what is the fiscal deficit number, what is effective revenue deficit, what is primary deficit, etc. etc. Done? Right? So these are the deficit trends. Now, why should you observe the deficit trends? And there is a tendency of UPSC asking a question on trends. For example, observe the graph and tell me statement 1. There has been a consistent rise in the fiscal deficit in the last decade. Statement 1 is correct or wrong? Observe the statements or observe the graph and tell me the answer to the statements. There has been a consistent rise in the fiscal deficit of government of India in the last decade. Wrong. There has been a consistent decline. Is that statement correct? There has been a consistent decline. Is that statement correct? No, that is also wrong. Right? So I hope you understand these kind of statements are asked by UPSC. Right? They have been asked earlier also. They can be asked again in the future. Please be very careful. Observe the trends. Now, apart from this, in the budget, in the budget, you'll generally come across this concept. That is, from where does government of India collect money, from where into what government of India will spend money. Okay, from where government will collect the money and in which area government will spend the money. This is also generally asked in the prelims. Now, for next year, if you're writing exams next year, does this picture make any sense to you? Absolutely no. I hope you understand this. If you're writing exams next year, is this picture important to you? No, it is not important. Why? Numbers will change. Data will also change. But my recommendation is next year in the month of February, when the government will announce a budget, make efforts. Look at the data. Please remember the data. What are the key data, key points you need to remember? Point number 1, look at the receipt side. Please look at the receipt side. Can I say the most important source of receipt for government of India is taxation? Just observe, just make observations, and that will be true next year also. The most important source of income or the receipts for the government of India is the taxation, either direct taxes or indirect taxes. I don't want to take the names of the students, but there are three students who are saying no. My dear, take up the calculator then. Take up the calculator. If this is very difficult to you, take up the calculator. Right? Borrowings and liabilities are 34 paisa, non-debt capital receipts are 2 paisa, and non-tax revenues are 6 paisa. If you remove all the three components, all the other components are taxes only. Right? Yes or no? If you remove these three components, all the other components are taxes only. So 34 plus 6, 40, 40 plus 2, 42. Which means in this picture, 58% of the total income collected by the government is in the form of taxes. 100 minus 42, 58. Right? If you find this difficult, start doing now. Right? 15 plus 17 plus 20, like this. Right? So you do that. Next one, where does government spend money? Where does government spend money? That is also equally important. Look at the schemes. Please look at the central sector scheme and centrally sponsored scheme. Now, what do you mean by central sector and centrally sponsored? Whenever only government of India will spend money on the schemes, I'll repeat my statement. Whenever in a scheme, only central government will allocate the funds. These are called as central sector schemes, where central government plus state government both will allocate funds, both will share the funds. It is called as centrally sponsored schemes. So around one fourth, not exactly one fourth, around one fourth of the total expenditure is schemes. What about subsidies? Right? What about subsidies? 7% is subsidies. What about defense? 8% is defense. But look at the next component. Very interesting. Look at the next component, interest payments. In interest payment component is 20%. Just to put things in perspective, just to make you understand, just to put the things in perspective, how much is the total expenditure proposed by the government for current financial year? Look at the table, right? I'm not asking you to do any research. Please look at the table. In the current financial year, the government of India is expecting to incur a total expenditure of 45 lakh crore rupees. 45 lakh crore rupees, right? Just a mind-boggling number, 45 lakh crores. And if you calculate out of 45 lakh rupees, 20%, right? 20%, right? So can you imagine the number? 9 plus lakh crore rupees. 9 lakh plus crore rupees government is paying in the form of interest only. And just have a look at it. Does it make sense to you after this? How do you understand it? What is the difference between fiscal deficit and primary deficit? After understanding the concepts earlier, just make a calculation. What is the difference between fiscal deficit and primary deficit? Don't you think that will be interest payment only? Does it make sense to you at least now? How to read all these tables, etc. So the difference between fiscal deficit and primary deficit is interest payment only. That is more than 9 lakh crore rupees. So annually or this current financial year, Government of India is paying more than 9 lakh crore rupees in the form of interest payment, right? That is because they have borrowed money in the past, right? So these are some of the ways how you understand all these expenditures. Next year, before writing the exams, my recommendation, my advice to all of you will be go through these documents. Go through these documents. UPSC can pick up questions here. Now, apart from this, please observe this point as well as this point. Do not by heart it. Please observe one of the component, that is 18%, says states a share of taxes and duties. Second component says finance commission and other transfers. What is the importance of this? You'll understand after some time when I take up and start discussing finance commission. Don't worry, we'll discuss that. All of you okay with these numbers? Can we go forward? All of you okay with this? Now, before I go forward, if you have joined only today, at somehow, or let's say one or two people who have joined only today, do not panic, right? Everything will be, right, different language to you. Everything will be different language. That is, you will not be able to understand most of what I'm going to discuss. Because yesterday we have discussed, right, what is budget, what is a debt creating receipt, what is non-debt creating receipt, etc., etc. If you have joined only today for the class, wait. When the next batch will happen, please attend economic class. Second category is those students who have attended classes but have not revised. I would say that is a very bad habit. That's a very, very bad habit. For example, I wrote a short form. Many of you started asking what is the meaning of that short form. Did we not discuss debt creating receipts, non-debt creating receipts, debt creating capital receipts, non-debt creating capital receipts, and non-debt creating revenue receipts? All of that yesterday only we have discussed, right? So I hope you understand. Please revise. If you're not going to revise, then there is absolutely no point. You will not be able to remember after 1 year. For example, let me know how many of you remember when I discussed a CPI IW. I'll connect it to current affairs, by the way. How many of you remember CPI IW? CPI industrial workers. Did we discuss in the classroom? And I had told you the importance of CPI IW is that Government of India will announce DA, correct? Dearness allowance. Right? The government of India will announce a DNS allowance based on what is the CPI IW. Those who have read the newspaper, did you come across a DA today? DA or DR? DA is announced for the central government employees who are there in the office right now. DNS relief is for pensioners. Have you come across a D and DR in today's Hindu newspaper? Front page. First article in the front page, right side. It has been increased by 4% from 42% of basic pay to 46% of basic pay. It has been announced. And if you have read Indian Express, it was much more interesting that given all this data, right? That mentioned CPI IW, right? They had mentioned when was the last time DA was hiked from 38% to 42%. They had mentioned this is being done because of recommendation of seventh pay commission. Suddenly UPSC can throw a bomb at you. This is being done by the government of India because of the recommendation of seventh pay commission, etc. So I hope you understand. You will have to keep on reading newspapers. You'll have to keep on revising. Every day I'm telling you. Every day I'm telling you. Even today I'll tell you. You'll have to read newspapers. Okay. So this is basically how government will collect money and how government will spend money. Okay. Done. Now, next important concept. Next important concept. The debt profile of the government. What is the debt profile of the government? Let's start. And those who are saying, again, I do understand, I do sympathize with some of the students who will say, sir, in my hometown newspaper doesn't arrive, etc., etc. My dear, in that case, try to find a way around it. For example, again, just an advice to you. Can you subscribe and download PDF version of newspapers? I do understand. It's a very genuine problem, right? In some of the villages, etc., newspapers doesn't arrive. I know that, right? I know that. But then question is, what is the solution to that? What is the way around it? Right? UPSC will never ask you whether did you get the newspaper or not. Then my solution to you, anyways, you are going to purchase the newspaper. Can you purchase the digital version of Hindu newspaper? Digital version online. Right, online, morning 6 o'clock, you will get the Hindu newspaper. Morning 6 o'clock, you will get Business Standard, Indian Express. Morning 6 o'clock, online newspapers. So those who have a problem in terms of getting physical copy, hard copy of a Hindu newspaper, my recommendation would be try to find a solution around it. Right, and one of the solution that I can give you is rather than purchasing physical copies, then can you shift to the digital copies of Hindu newspaper? Try it. Okay, done. So come back to the discussion here. Debt profile of the government. Okay, debt profile of the government. Point number one. Point number one. All of you understand the term debt? Let me know. All of you understand the term debt or not? Debt means the money that you owe, the money that you will have to repay. That is called as a debt. Now, the total liabilities of government of India. Slightly technical concept. Understand this. The total liabilities of government of India, it is calculated by taking into consideration three very important components. One is called as a public debt. Second one is called as the public account, and the third one is called as extra budgetary resources. One is public debt, second one is the public account liabilities, and the third one is extra budgetary resources. The sum total of 1, 2, and 3 will give you the total liabilities of government of India. Now, many of you will ask me, then what is the difference? What is the difference in liabilities, public debt, etc.? Let me explain it to you. Let's go point by point. Point number one, public debt. What do you mean by public debt? How much government of India will repay from taking the money from consolidated fund of India? The debt that is charged, I repeat, this is a technical term, the debt that is charged from the consolidated fund of India. Meaning what? how much money will be repaid by the government of India from taking money from consolidated fund of India is basically the public debt. And do you remember this? Public debt means the government would have borrowed the money from the domestic sources as well as external sources. Correct? The government of India would have borrowed money from domestic sources as well as external sources. If you remember it correctly, while discussing RBI, we have discussed yesterday also I've mentioned, it is there in the slide, you can see it. Government of India will take a loan from World Bank. Can I call it as external debt? Yes or no? Government of India will take a loan from World Bank. Can I call it as external debt? Government will take a loan from International Monetary Fund. External debt. On the other side, Government of India will issue a bond to you, collect money from you. I'll call this as internal debt. So the public debt of Government of India is basically the sum total of internal debt as well as external debt. That is the first component. Second component is called as public account. Public account. Now, what is this concept of a public account? Have you heard of Public Provident Fund? Let me know. Have you heard of Public Provident Fund? I'm pretty sure some of you might be investing in the Public Provident Fund. It is a type of investment vehicle. It is a type of instrument in the market where you can invest in the Provident Fund accounts. PPF, now please tell me who is responsible, I repeat, ultimately who is responsible for repayment of PPF money to you? Let me know. Ultimately, who is responsible to ensure that PPF money will come back to you? Can I say Government of India? All of you agree? Government of India. Government of India must ensure you will get the money back. Can I say PPF becomes a liability of Government of India then? Yes or no? Because of this, can I say PPF becomes a liability of Government of India? Government of India has not directly borrowed from you. No issues. They have not directly borrowed. Government has not come to you and taken PPF money. But don't you think it is a responsibility of Government of India to get your money, that is PPF money, back to you? Hence, I will call this Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana money, right, or PPF, right, or Kisan Vikas Patra. And many of these types of instruments which are added into the public account, all of these are basically liabilities of Government of India. Right? These are also liabilities of Government of India. And by the way, have you come across public account in your polity discussions? Let me know. Have you come across public account in your polity discussions? If polity lectures are over, right, that is weekday evening batch, I'm pretty sure Article 266 or 267, these talks about all the three accounts only. And those who are saying no, if you have attended evening batch earlier, it is over. If you're attending morning, it will be covered. If you're not yet covered, please don't worry. Article 266 or 267 talks about three types of accounts. Right? That is a consolidated, contingency, and a public account. And what is the speciality about public account? What is the speciality? In case of consolidated fund, if the Government of India wants to withdraw even a single rupee, wants to take out even a single rupee, they are supposed to take the permission of the Parliament. Whereas in case of public account, they do not require any approval of the Parliament. No approval is required. Government can withdraw the money from public account as well as deposit money into the public account. No approval is necessary of the Parliament. Right? So again, understand this. Public accounts becomes the liabilities of Government of India. And third one is much more interesting: extra budgetary resources. Extra budgetary resources. Right? What is this extra budgetary resources? Let me explain. Listen to me very carefully. Let's start. Here is Government of India. Here is Government of India. Okay. Imagine there is a particular project to be developed. There is a particular infrastructure project to be developed, and the expenditure required is I'll take an arbitrary number, let's say 1,000 crore rupees. And in example 1, government will allocate, government of India in the budget will allocate all the 1,000 crore rupees. Is okay? Example 1. Example 2. This is technical, interesting, but listen to me carefully. Government of India in the budget will allocate, let's say, 600 crore rupees. In the budget will allocate 600 crore rupees for the development of infrastructure. And let's say there is authority such as Food Corporation of India or National Highways Authority of India. So one of the authorities of Government of India will ask this authority to borrow 400 crore rupees from the market and spend on the construction of this infrastructure project. Listen to me very carefully. I'll repeat it again. In the example 1, Government of India will directly allocate 1,000 crore rupees for the development of project. Example 2, requirement is 1,000. Government will not allocate 1,000. They will allocate only 600. And remaining 400 crore, one of the authorities of Government of India will borrow this money and spend it on the development of infrastructure project. Now, can I say in the example 2, Government of India has not directly borrowed from the market? I'll repeat the statement. In example 2, Government of India has not directly borrowed from the market. And because Government of India has not directly borrowed from the market, this 400 crore rupees will not be counted. I repeat, will not be counted in the physical deficit of Government of India. Is it okay? I'll repeat it again. Listen carefully. In the second example, Government of India has not borrowed 400 crore. It has asked somebody else to borrow in the market. And because government is not directly borrowing, this 400 crore will not be counted as a part of fiscal deficit of Government of India. Now, what is the benefit of this? What is the benefit of this? Please tell me. Because of this, can I say Government of India's fiscal deficit number would be lower? Think of it and do let me know the answer. Because of this, I'm talking about example 2, by the way. Because of this, Government of India's fiscal deficit can be controlled. Right? To you, to the market, it feels like Government of India is not borrowing too much money. Its fiscal deficit is in control. They're reducing fiscal deficit, etc., etc. But on the other hand, it has indirectly borrowed, not directly, indirectly borrowed through this authority. Point number two. Point number two. This process of borrowing indirectly and spending money, this is called as off budget borrowing. Off budget borrowing. Off budget borrowing. All of you okay with this? Off budget. Off budget means outside the budget. Because if you want to borrow within the budget, first you will have to bring in a bill, right? In the budget appropriation bill, you will have to introduce that in the parliament. Parliament has to give you approval. Now, please tell me, if the National Highway Authority of India is borrowing 400 crore, do you require Parliament's approval? Let me know. Do you require Parliament's approval? Some of you are misguided. I don't know where you have read it. If National Highways Authority of India is borrowing, do you require Parliament's approval? Where have you come across it? Did I ever talk about this? Has any book told you so? Absolutely no. Right? It is not Government of India. It is the National Highways Authority of India. If they want to borrow, let them borrow. They can borrow money. You do not require any approval of the Parliament. Please remember, you do not require any approval. That is another advantage. The government is showing a small fiscal deficit, is borrowing money without introducing any document in the Parliament. They're simply borrowing money. But understand the problem with this. Understand the problem with this. Right? Don't you think government's fiscal deficit in that case is not the correct representation of how much is the liability of Government of India? All of you agree with me? If I tell you today's fiscal deficit of government of India is right. If you remember earlier, 17 lakh crore rupees. Correct. This year, this financial year, fiscal deficit of government of India is 17 lakh crore rupees. But what if the agencies of government of India, because government of India has told so, they have borrowed 5 lakh crore? Don't you think 17 lakh crore is not the correct representation of how much government of India has borrowed? So I hope you understand the logic behind it. Third very important point. No doubt agency or the authority has borrowed it. Repayment, I repeat, repayment is the burden of government of India. The payment of interest as well as the repayment of the loan is the burden of government of India. It is the burden of government of India. Government of India will repay this loan maybe in the right future, after 2 years, after 3 years, after 5 years. Right? They will repay this particular loan. Right? They will basically give, right, the authority, let's say 400 crore, the authority will repay this 400 crore to the market. And this is how the off-budget liabilities, off-budget borrowing is done. And this methodology or this kind of resources, it's a resource, it's a money that is collected. This is called as extra budgetary resources. This is referred to as extra budgetary resources. Now, all of you are okay if I tell you even extra budgetary resources are liabilities of government of India? Is it okay? Can we go forward? All of you okay if I tell you that even extra budgetary resources are the liability of government of India? Government may not have borrowed today, but government will repay it in the future. Hence, EBRs are part of the total liabilities of the government. So public debt plus, right, the public account as well as extra budgetary resources, all of them put together is the total liabilities of government of India. Total liabilities. In fact, before I go forward, many of you will have this kind of a doubt. Many of you will think that fiscal deficit is equal to public debt. Please tell me, is it correct? Think of it very carefully. Can I write fiscal deficit is equal to public debt? Is it correct? Absolutely no. Absolutely no. Fiscal deficit is not public debt. Let me prove it. Fiscal deficit represents how much money you have borrowed in this year. Is it okay? Right? Fiscal deficit represents how much money you have borrowed this year. Let me give a very simple example. In the financial year 24, government is borrowing 17 lakh crore rupees. Can I call this as fiscal deficit of financial year 24? Correct? It's a fiscal deficit of financial year 24. And what if government of India earlier in the financial year 23 has borrowed, let's say, 13 lakh crore rupees? I will call this as fiscal deficit of financial year 23. Now, can I say, assuming only these two are there, can I say the public debt of government of India will be 30 lakh crore rupees? Correct? The public debt of government of India is 30 lakh crore rupees. So I hope you understand fiscal deficit represents how much money you're borrowing in that year. The debt means how much is your liability, how much money you will have to pay from consolidated fund of India, right? That is a public debt. Okay, so both are different. Do not get confused like this. Okay, now let me go forward. There is one act I want to discuss. FRBM, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act, FRBM Act of 2003. Now, what is the importance of FRBM Act of 2003? Government of India during 90s realized that there is a lot of problems in the finances of government. Government is borrowing heavily. Government might be spending that on revenue account or capital account, right, etc., etc. So in order to make the finances much better, to improve upon the finances of government of India, they set up one committee very famously. I'm sorry, they set up a committee later, but before that they introduced one act, FRBM Act of 2003. Now, what are the provisions of FRBM Act of 2003? Let's go point by point. Point number one: government has to reduce both revenue deficit as well as fiscal deficit. Government has to ensure revenue deficit will be reduced to 0% and fiscal deficit will be reduced to 3%. This is a point number one. Government by 2008 and 9 will have to reduce RD to 0% and FD to 3%. Now, all of you are okay with the RD of 0%? Tell me, all of you okay? Why should we have RD of 0%? If you have a RD of 0%, what does it mean? It simply means how much money you are collecting is equal to how much money you are spending under the revenue account. Right? Under the revenue account, the money that you are earning is equal to the money that you are spending, which means you are not borrowing anything for revenue account. No borrowing required for revenue account. Now tell me, if you borrow 3% of GDP, 3% means 3% of GDP, and if RD is equal to 0%, can I say it simply means your borrowings are going towards creation of assets? Correct or not? Apply the common sense now. Start applying common sense. If your RD is 0% and your FD is 3%, what does it mean? It simply means you're borrowing 3% of GDP not for consumption purposes, not to take care of day-to-day expenditures. You're borrowing money for creation of assets now. You're spending money on assets. That is good. So you're allowed to borrow, but on assets, not for consumption purposes. That is the first recommendation. That is the first recommendation. In fact, Government of India was in the process of reducing both revenue deficit as well as fiscal deficit. But back in the year 2007, 2008, right, what happened? There was a crisis. Back in the year 2007, 2008, there was a crisis very famous by the name of global financial crisis. Although it started in USA, it had an impact on overall global economy. Now, just like pandemic, apply the logic now. During a crisis, don't you think government expenditure will start increasing and the incomes collected by the government will come down? Correct or not? As you have experienced in the recent times, same way, even during crisis, back in the year 2008, the expenditures will start increasing, incomes will start falling down. So we were on the path to achieve this target, but because of the crisis, we had to forego the target year. We had to forego the targets also. Even today, we are struggling to reach 3% and 0% for FD and RD respectively. We are yet to reach. We are yet to reach 3% and 0% for both of them. For example, if you ask me what is the present situation, this is the present situation. I've taken this from economic survey only, but don't by heart the numbers. Don't by heart the numbers, because from one year to next year, the number or the data will keep on changing. Can you see this? We are yet to achieve. I repeat, we are yet to achieve fiscal deficit target of 3% as well as revenue deficit target of 0%. We are yet to achieve that. We are in the process of achieving it. We are yet to achieve it. Anyways, that is the first point. Second point, the FRBM Act, in order to reach the target by 2008 and 2009, recommended that we should reduce the fiscal deficit annually by 0.3% and revenue deficit by 0.5%. From one year to next year, keep on reducing the FD as well as RD, so that by 2008 and 2009, your RD will become 0 and FD will become 3%. That's the second point. Third point, if you have decided a target for the current financial year, let's say you have decided a target of FD of hypothetical number 6%. Only in certain circumstances, only in certain situations, you will be allowed to exceed the target. Only in certain situations you'll be allowed to exceed the target. Now you'll ask me, sir, what kind of situations? Please tell me, if there is a war, if India will enter into war with any other country, don't you think we will end up crossing revenue deficit targets as well as fiscal deficit targets? Yes or no? If you come across a situation such as pandemic, if you come across a recession, right? If a country will fall into, let's say, depression, if there is a destruction of whole economy because of certain event, so there will be certain situations, only in certain situations you can, right, you can forget about the target, you can exceed the target. For example, you have decided target of 6% FD, but rather than 6%, you might achieve 6.4%. You might achieve 6.5%, which means flexibility is provided to you. Okay. Reserve Bank of India should not subscribe to the primary issues of G security. Tell me, is it okay why they have recommended this? Do you remember the concept of primary market and secondary market? Why should RBI not purchase G securities directly from government of India, etc., etc.? We have discussed all of this: direct monetization and indirect monetization. If RBI will purchase from the primary market, it becomes direct monetization. Direct monetization should not be done. Hence, we have discontinued based on the recommendation of FRBM Act. Apart from this, apart from this, under FRBM Act, whenever the government will present the union budget, they will have to present three documents. Apart from all the other documents, what are the other documents? You have tax expenditure document, you have a FRBM document, you have right, let's say appropriation bill, you have a budget summary, you have finance bill. So apart from all these documents, government has to submit three other documents as well. What are the three other documents? First one is macroeconomic framework statement. Macroeconomic framework statement. Second one is fiscal policy strategy statement. And the third one is medium term fiscal policy statement. Now let's go one by one. What is this concept of a macroeconomic framework statement? MFS, macroeconomic framework statement. In the macroeconomic framework statement, government of India has to provide, right, it's certain details regarding what kind of a GDP India can achieve in the next 1 year. What would be the GDP growth rate of Indian economy in the next 1 year? What would happen to agriculture sector? What is expected to happen to, right, let's say the industrial sector? What is going to be the impact on GDP for the next 1 year? So all these right estimates or all these expectations, right, the government has to provide under the macroeconomic framework statement. All of you okay with this? The growth prospect of the economy, government of India has to assess it, and government will tell you. In fact, if you want to see it, again, not required if you're writing exams next year. I'm pretty sure all of you are doing that, or later that. Next year, when the budget is announced, I will advise you this. Watch the budget. Just watch the budget. You will see that finance minister at the end of the budget will tell the parliament what would be the expected GDP growth rate in the next 1 year. Check it, by the way. Check it. Okay, the finance minister will tell what is the expected growth rate for Indian economy in the next 1 year. Expected, right? Again, you cannot guarantee anything. What would be the estimated growth rate? That is basically macroeconomic framework statement itself. All of you okay with the first one? Can we go forward? The statement will contain overview of the economy. The statement will provide information regarding industrial sector, agriculture sector, etc., etc. All of this information will be provided in the MFS. Second statement, fiscal policy strategy statement. Fiscal policy strategy statement. In the fiscal policy strategy statement, FPSS, government, that is the finance minister, will provide details about what is the strategy area, what are the policy areas or the strategic areas for government of India for the next one financial year. Will government target healthcare sector? Is the government targeting taxation? Is the government targeting exports? what are the strategy areas, right? What are the focus areas for the government in the next 1 year? That information will be provided in the fiscal policy strategy statement. Okay. Next, third one is medium term fiscal policy statement. Medium term fiscal policy statement. Now, what is this medium term fiscal policy statement? Listen to me very carefully. Government of India will provide you the targets that they want to achieve for these parameters for next 3 financial years. I'll repeat the statement. What government of India wants to achieve in terms of target for the next 3 financial years for fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, public debt, right, primary deficit, etc. All of these targets are given by the government for 3 financial years, next 3 financial years. This is called as a medium term fiscal policy statement. Now, why I've written 3-year rolling targets here? What is the meaning of the term rolling target? I'll explain. Please listen to me carefully. Let's say hypothetically, for financial year 24, financial year 25, and financial year 26. These are the 3 financial years. So for these 3 financial years, let's say hypothetically, Government of India has targeted revenue deficit of, let's say, 2.9%, 2.6%, and 2.1%. And by the way, I'm just giving you a hypothetical example, imaginary example. Now, please tell me, because of what is happening in India as well as outside India, is it okay if I say government may or may not meet these targets for the next 3 financial years? Yes or no? Right? Does it make sense to you? It may or may not meet. I'm not saying it will not meet. I'm not saying even it will meet. May or may not meet. Possibility is there. Right? Now, let's say next year when the budget is announced, looking at the situation again, don't you think government might adjust what is the revenue deficit target for 25 as well as 26? Correct? Next year, looking at the situation, looking at the internal situation as well as external situation, can I say government might change the revenue deficit targets for 25 as well as 26? So can I say government continuously is changing the targets? Government is continuously changing, assessing the situation and changing the target. So when you keep on changing the targets like this, these are called as rolling target. Do you understand the term rolling? Rolling means moving. Rolling simply means moving, right? So the government will keep on changing these targets based on its assessment of the situation. Hence, this is called as a rolling target. So medium term fiscal policy statement will consist of the 3-year rolling targets for these parameters, right? Fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, primary deficit, tax revenues, non-tax revenues, as well as the public debt of Government of India. So these are the 3 other statements which are published or which are submitted, introduced by the government in the budgetary documents. Now, I said FRBM was introduced, right, was implemented from the year 2003. Over a period of time, Government of India felt that FRBM Act has become very old. We need to review the FRBM Act and we need to make certain changes in the FRBM Act. That is a precise reason Government of India set up a committee, NK Singh Review Committee. NK Singh Committee, it is also referred to as FRBM Review Committee. Everybody is okay with the name? NK Singh Committee or FRBM Review Committee. Now, please tell me, in the last couple of weeks, have you come across Mr. NK Singh's related articles in the newspapers? Let me see how many of you are reading newspapers. Have you people come across articles where Mr. NK Singh is actually mentioned? Interview is there, discussion is there. And if you have read it very carefully, Mr. NK Singh is a part of a committee which is discussing how do we restructure multilateral development banks? Yes or no? How do we restructure? He is the co-chairman. He is the co-chairman of a committee which is looking into how do we restructure the lending activities of multilateral development banks. Multilateral means banks where multiple countries are members. All of you understand the term here? Multilateral simply means banks where multiple countries are members. Can I give a best example? World Bank. Yes or no? World Bank, right? In case of World Bank, can I say multiple countries are there as members, including India? So Mr. N.K. Singh is very much there in the current affairs. Committee has been set up. Please read regarding that. Okay, now come back to the discussion. N.K. Singh committee was set up by Government of India to review FRBM, to study and recommend changes to FRBM, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. Now, based on recommendations, certain changes have been made. But what were the recommendations? Let's focus on the most important couple of recommendations. First one, the NK Singh Review Committee recommended that rather than targeting only fiscal deficit and revenue deficit, we should also target public debt. I'll repeat the statement. Rather than targeting only fiscal deficit and revenue deficit, we should also target and reduce public debt of the government, not only of the central government, but also of the state governments. And as per this committee, the public debt of central government, and please remember, whenever you come across public debt, it generally means central government. Is it okay? Anybody has a problem? Whenever you come across the term public debt, it simply means a debt of the central government. Now, some of you will simply say, sir, what if they're talking about debt of central government as well as state government? Then they will use the term general debt. They will use the term general debt. All of you, okay, please do let me know. Right? If they use the term overall debt of both the center and states or general debt, they're simply talking about central government debt as well as state government debt. Whereas if they use the term public debt, they would be simply referring to the central government debt. That is a practice in India. That is a practice in India. So come back to the discussion here. The committee recommended that the central government debt should be reduced to around 40% of GDP, and the state government's debt should be reduced to 20% of GDP. It should not be more than that. It should be brought down to around 40% and 20% for center and states respectively. And if you put together both center plus states, if you put together, it will basically become center plus state, it will become 60% of GDP. Is it okay? 60% of GDP. Is it around 60% of GDP for governments in India? No, it is more than 80%, more than 90% now. Right? The debts of government as well as government of India plus state governments, it is more than 80%, more than 90% now. Right? Why? Reason is simple. When the recommendation was provided, when the committee recommended, the debt of central government was somewhere around 47%, and the state governments was somewhere in the range of around 30%. And so the committee recommended that central government drag it down to 40, states drag it down to 20. After that, there has been a pandemic, there has been a recession. As a result of this, both center plus state, the debts have kept on increasing. They've kept on increasing. It's very, very high in India. We'll have to reduce it. But again, please understand, you cannot call this as a mismanagement of finances. I hope you understand. If the debt of the central government hits 90%, you cannot call this as a mismanagement because it is a problem of pandemic. It has happened because of the pandemic. Because of the pandemic, the incomes of governments went down. I'm talking about central government, of course. Income went down, and the expenditure burden on the government of India actually increased. So there was no option available to the government rather than right, simply living. Government of India kept on borrowing more and more money from the market, and as a result of that, right, the public debt has kept on increasing. And so I hope you understand. So the debt limit that has been fixed is 60%. Out of that 40% limit is for center, 20% limit is for the states. Right? That is one very important recommendation. Second, to achieve the targets, to achieve these targets of 40 and 20%, the committee recommended that there should be yearly targets. There should be yearly target. For example, for central government, I'll show you a picture here. Do not by heart the picture. For central government, the committee has recommended yearly targets. How do we reduce the revenue deficit, fiscal deficit, as well as the debt, public debt of the union government? Yearly targets have been provided. If you observe it, by financial year 23, the revenue deficit, if we were able to meet the targets, the revenue deficit would have been reduced to 0.8 percentage of GDP. Fiscal deficit would have been brought down to 2.5 percentage of GDP, and the public debt of government of India would have been brought down to 38.7 percentage of GDP. But again, I'll reiterate my point. We have not been able to meet these targets. A reason behind that is pandemic. We have not been able to meet these targets, right? Nowhere near to the targets, very, very far away. But again, there was a crisis, a recession because of unforeseen events. That is the reason, right? We have not been able to meet the targets. So yearly targets must be provided, which were given for the center by the committee. Next, it also recommended there should be a fiscal council. There should be a committee of experts to assist central government. I repeat, they recommended autonomous fiscal council. Fiscal council represents a committee, simply a committee which will assist government of India, union government, in order to achieve the targets. What would be the role of the fiscal council? The fiscal council would recommend what policies government of India should take in order to reduce expenditure. The council would recommend if government of India through the policies are straying away from the target which has been decided. The fiscal council will recommend changes in various practices of government of India. So there was a recommendation that an independent committee would be set up, or an authority would be set up, which would keep on giving inputs to government of India. Government of India so far has not set up autonomous fiscal council, and there are no discussions whatsoever regarding establishment of this. And government of India says it is not required, right? Although recommendation is there, it is not required. We will be able to manage, right, the targets given to us, because under FRBM we are having annual targets. We will try to reach those targets. Okay, next, the grounds under which government can deviate from the target. Under what circumstances the government can deviate, can, right, move away from the target which have been prescribed, were given under the committee recommendation. For example, if there is a drought, if there is a huge impact on the economy falls into recession, if there is right, a war between India and other countries, right, if the economy experiences contraction for four quarters like this. So there are situations which have been prescribed by the committee. Only under these situations, government will be allowed to deviate from whatever targets have been given by the committee. Next, committee also has recommended that 15th Finance Commission, 15th FC should take this up and provide what should be the targets that should be given to the state governments. Because the committee, that is NK Singh committee, recommended targets for union government. What about reduction of debt for the state government targets? So the 15th Finance Commission was asked by this NK Singh committee to look into and recommend changes in the debt targets for the state governments. Right, so these are some of the very important recommendations which have been provided by NK Singh committee, or else also referred to as FRBM review committee. Can we go forward now? Let me know. Can we go forward? Any doubts, any issues? Can we go forward? Arey Baba, don't worry about match. I'm pretty sure many of you would have started watching the match and parallelly class also. Focus on the class. Where rupee comes from, My dear, government will collect money in the form of taxes. Government will borrow. Right? Yesterday we've discussed receipts or not. Did we discuss receipts? Right? Did we discuss the receipts? Right? The capital receipts, revenue receipts, those are the sources from which government will collect money. Okay. Now, certain important points. Certain important points regarding public debt. Point number one, out of the overall debt, out of the overall debt, most of the debt is of central government. And I hope you understand when I say overall debt simply means the central government debt plus state government debt. Most of it, that is somewhere around 70% of the general debt is of the central government or the union government. Point number one. Point number two, out of the central government debt, out of the public debt, most of the debt is internal. Only a part of it is external. Only a small percentage of it. How much? Generally around 5% of the public debt. Generally around 5% of the public debt is external. Around 95% is internal in nature. Why? You should understand what is the importance of all of these points. Now please tell me, if you have borrowed from the external market, don't you think you will have to repay in external currencies, foreign currencies? Correct or not? If you have borrowed from the external market, you will have to pay in foreign currencies, such as let's say dollar. Do you have a dollar printing machine in India? Can you print unlimited amount of dollars? No. You will have to earn dollars. You will have to export or you will have to borrow again from someone else, etc., etc. Right? The dollars are very limited in India. So don't you think borrowing in rupees, repaying in rupees makes more sense rather than borrowing from any external sources? That is the reason most of the debt of government of India is internal in nature. Very small part of it, around 5% of it is external in nature. Okay. The government also has a portfolio of a majority of long-term bonds, long tenure or long-term bonds. What is the advantage of it? We have discussed all of this earlier also. When you borrow, think like a government official. When you borrow, would you want to take a longer time period to repay it, or you want to repay it in a very short duration? You will prefer to borrow for a longer duration. You should prefer, by the way, don't say short duration. You should prefer to repay after a longer duration. Why? It will provide you a lot of flexibility. It will give you a lot of flexibility, right? So it will give you a lot of flexibility when you have a long time period to repay the loan. Okay. Next one, the government debt is characterized by low foreign exchange rate risk. If your borrowings, most of it is internal in nature, don't you think even if there is a movement in the exchange rate, that is, let's say $1 is equal to 50 rupees to $1 is equal to, let's say, 60 rupees, because your external loans are very less, this kind of exchange rate, don't you think it will have very limited effect on you? Yes or no? I'll repeat it again. Right? If you've borrowed a lot of money from the domestic market, very small part of it from the external market, even this kind of a movement in rupee will not have a huge impact on you. It will have an impact, but very limited impact, not a huge impact. That is the point I'm trying to make here. This is called as exchange rate risk. Exchange rate risk is very low. And remember one more very important point here. The advantage of having long term bonds or long tenure bonds is that the government will also face very less interest rate risk. I'll explain it. Listen to me, slightly technical. Listen to me very carefully. If the government has a majority of the borrowings by issuing, let's say, I'll take a very simple example, right? Let's start with one example here. Can you see this particular bond? Your friend is back. Can you see the bond? What is the rate of interest? 6%. Now let's say hypothetically, government of India will issue this bond to you, right? Will collect 100 rupee. Can I say after 3 years? After 3 years, government will repay this 100 rupee. Right? I'll write an example here. Right? Example 1, after 3 years, government will pay this 100 rupee. But even after 3 years, government will require money to borrow. Correct? Government will require, right, a huge amount of borrowings from the market. What if when they are paying the 100 rupee back to you, what if in that year interest rates are very high? Let me know. What if in that year interest rates are very, very high? And as a result of which, government will borrow again 100 rupee, but at 8% rate of interest. This is one example. Second example, government will issue a bond to you. The maturity period is 30 years and the rate of interest is 6%. Please tell me, don't you think government is getting the benefit in the second example compared to first example? Yes or no? Please tell me, think logically, always think logically. In the first example, right, you will borrow for 3 years, repay it. Now you will borrow for another 20 years. Right? Let's say for 3 years, after that 20 years. But then when you're borrowing after 3 years, interest rate is 8%, which means government has to give you more rate of interest. But on the other side, in second example, they have borrowed for 30 years only at 6%. So after 3 years also, they will give you 6% coupon rate. After 10 years also, they'll give you 6% coupon rate. After 20 years also, they'll give you 6% coupon rate. Correct? Right? So example 2 will provide better benefit to government of India rather than example 1. Okay, that is the reason government generally prefers to borrow by issuing long-term bonds. Long-term bonds. Done? Now here itself, not related to UPSA, but I'll just give you one tip. One tip. Those who keep fixed deposits, I'm pretty sure a lot of you or your parents keep fixed deposits in the bank. Just one tip, I will not take any payment for this, but check it, it will benefit you. Those who keep fixed deposit in the bank and who have kept earlier, let's say in the last 1.5 years, what you would have done is, generally the bank will ask you, sir, you want a feature of automatic renewal or not? Correct? There's a feature of automatic renewal. You want automatic renewal? Most will simply say, yes, I will opt for automatic renewal. If you choose automatic renewal, most probably you are losing interest. Check it. I'll tell you. Right? If you have chosen automatic renewal, most probably you are losing lot of interest. Why? Imagine you kept a FD in the January 2022. Okay, imagine you kept an FD in January 2022. The fixed deposit interest rates were very low and they kept on reducing after that. Why? Does it make sense or not? They kept on reducing after that. But from the month of May, repo rates have started increasing and fixed deposit rates also have started increasing. But what is the feature of automatic renewal? Automatic renewal means if you have kept an FD for 1 year, it will be renewed. Renewed means after 1 year is over, it will be renewed for 1 more year, but with the same rate of interest. Check it. Please check it. It will renew for 1 more year, but whatever rate of interest they had given you right in the beginning, they will renew at the same rate of interest. But now please tell me, after discussing so much in economics, yesterday me telling you certain points, etc., don't you think in the last 6 to 8 months, FD interest rates have increased? Correct or not? FD interest rates have increased. They have increased, by the way, right? Don't say no, they have increased, by the way. Which means in January 2022, if you have kept an FD and bank gave you 4% rate of interest, or let's say 5% rate of interest, the bank will be offering maybe around 6% rate of interest now. but they will not give you 6% because you have chosen automatic renewal at the same rate of interest. Right? So please check. If you have kept FD, please check what is the FD interest rates right now, how much you are getting. Please check how much your parents are getting and how much they are supposed to get if they keep an FD right now. Please check it. Okay. Right. So it can reduce as well. Of course, yes. It can reduce as well. But the fact is very simple, my dear. It's a double-edged sword. Right? There are three students who are saying the interest rates or FD interest rates can fall as well. My dear, they can fall. But what is the fact right now? What is the fact? FD interest rates in the last 6 to 8 months have increased. That's a fact. Which means you are not getting the benefit by choosing automatic renewal. Check it today or check it tomorrow. Go to your bank, check it online. You will realize what I'm talking about. Okay. Now, can we go forward? All of you okay with this? Can we go forward? India's public debt is lower than many of the developed countries. Right? The public debt of government of India is much lower than the public debt of many other developed countries. Right? So these are various points regarding the public debt of government of India. Okay? Can we go forward now? Can we go forward? Okay. Any issues? Any doubts so far? Let me know. How foreign direct investment is different from external borrowing? My dear, one is investment. One is investment. One is borrowing. Don't you think both are different? A foreign company will open a company in India. That is investment. Another one is borrowing. Borrowing you'll have to repay. Your borrowing you'll have to repay. Right? Foreign direct investment is companies are investing in India. Both are different. And we have not discussed FDI. We'll discuss it later. Please don't worry. Okay. Done. What should be done of those fixed deposits? Close the fixed deposits. Don't go for automatic renewal. Do not go for automatic renewal. And please understand the hint was very much there. Again, I hope you understand. Common man doesn't understand how economic works. All of you will agree with me at least now. Common man will never understand how economy works. Right? How you are supposed to move your investments. When inflation rate is very high, it doesn't make any sense to keep your money in fixed deposits or savings bank, rather invest in other instruments in the market, etc. For example, all of you heard of sovereign gold bonds? Heard. I've not discussed. I know that. We'll discuss it. Financial market. Next chapter is financial market. We'll discuss it. If you've heard of sovereign gold bonds, the first round of sovereign gold bonds matured very recently. I hope you understand. Sovereign gold bonds, right? The first round, the first sovereign gold bonds which were issued had a maturity or have a maturity of 8 years. Even today, sovereign gold bonds have a maturity of 8 years. The first sovereign gold bonds which were issued by government of India back in 2015 matured very, very recently in 2023. And the returns rate, the rate of returns on sovereign gold bonds was in double digits. I hope you understand my point. The returns, right? The returns on these sovereign gold bonds was in double digits. Right? On FDs, it is 6%, it is 7%. Whereas on sovereign gold bonds, it was double digits. Again, do not worry about what is SGB, how do you calculate, etc. It's not relevant because some of you asked the question, I've answered it. Okay, don't worry. Let's go forward now. Finance Commission. Let's go forward. Concept of Finance Commission. Okay. Now, what is this Finance Commission? Point number one. It is a constitutional authority. It is a constitutional authority. Under Article 280 of Constitution of India, President of India once every 5 years will constitute a finance commission. The composite of finance commission is 5 members. One is the chairperson or the chairman plus other four are members. One is the chairperson, other four are members. Now next, what is the role of the finance commission? What is the importance of the finance commission? I'll explain to you. Please listen to me very, very carefully here. Here is the central government. Here is the center. Central government will impose and collect lot of taxes. All of you will agree with me? Central government will impose and collect lot of taxes. And the important point is these taxes are pan-India taxes. These taxes are pan-India taxes. Pan-India means across India, throughout India. For example, tell me, income tax, is it specifically applied and collected only in one state or throughout India? What about corporate tax? What about corporate tax? Specifically applied to one or two states or throughout India? What about import taxes? What about import taxes? That is customs duties throughout India. So I hope you understand the argument here. As per the Constitution of India, under Schedule 7, pan-India taxation power, right? That is the taxes which are applicable throughout India. The power to impose and collect those taxes has been given to central government. Point number one. Point number two. The Constitution also says that because the central government is collecting all these taxes, central government should distribute, I repeat, should distribute part of these taxes to the states as well. We cannot allow only the central government to use all the tax receipts. Some of it has to be given to the states as well. That is a precise reason. Now, the Article 280, under Article 280, we will be establishing a finance commission. We'll be establishing a finance commission. Finance commission will recommend, I repeat, finance commission will recommend out of the total taxes collected by the central government, which is called as a divisible pool. I repeat, out of the total taxes collected by the central government, which is called as a divisible pool. Some of the books will write it as a divisible pool. Somebody will refer to this as a central divisible pool. Both are one and the same. So all the taxes imposed and collected by the central government will be kept under divisible pool, and from the divisible pool, Finance Commission will recommend how much money will go to the central government and how much money will go to all the states. All of you okay with the first recommendation? Let me know. All of you okay with the first recommendation? Central government will impose and collect these taxes, but again, please understand, some of them are not counted as a part of divisible pool. There are certain types of taxes which are imposed and collected by the center, which are not counted as a part of divisible pool. For example, do you remember cesses and surcharges? Let me know. Taxation. Please go back to taxation. Do you remember cesses and surcharges? Cesses and surcharges are imposed and collected by the center. These are not part of divisible pool, right? It will be directly used by the central government. So come back to the point here. So the money will be collected in a form called as a divisible pool. From this, the Finance Commission will recommend how much money will go to the central government, how much money will go to the states. This recommendation is called as vertical devolution. This is referred to as vertical devolution. All of you okay? From the divisible pool, how much should go to the center, how much to the states? This is called as a vertical devolution formula. Now, let's say hypothetically, let's say 40% will go to states and 60% will go to center. Let's say there will be another recommendation how this money will be given to state of Bihar. How much of this will go to state of Bihar? How much of this will go to Karnataka? How much should go to Sikkim? How much should go to Punjab, etc. So once the funds are allocated for all the states, now the Finance Commission will also recommend how much of this money should go to state 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. And this is called as horizontal devolution. This is referred to as horizontal devolution. All of you okay with this? right? One is called as a vertical devolution. Vertical means the divisible pool should go to center plus state. And the second, horizontal devolution, how much has gone to all the states, now how it will be distributed between the states. That is called as horizontal devolution. Both are recommended by the Finance Commission. And please understand the term. I said these are recommended. When these are recommended, do you think these are compulsory to be followed by the union government? Think of it, recommendations, right? Advisory. Recommendations are advisories in nature. There is no compulsion on the union government to follow it. There is no compulsion, right? Absolutely no compulsion because these are recommendations. Okay. Next, so first one is a distribution of tax proceeds between union and the states. The first one. Second one, all the states, just like the union government, will have consolidated fund also. Correct? Just like the union government, even the states will have consolidated fund. Now, how do you increase the amount collected within the consolidated fund? How do you consolidate? How do you augment? Augment means collect more. How do you augment money, collect more money in the consolidated fund of the states? That is also recommended. That is also recommended by the Finance Commission. Third one, central government will provide lot of grants to the states. We have discussed the term grants yesterday. Center, that is union, will provide lot of grants to the states. On what basis? On what basis the grants will be provided by the center to the states? That also is recommended, right, by the Finance Commission. And finally, the fourth one, anything else, any other matter, any other subject that will be referred to the Finance Commission by the government, on that also recommendations are provided by the Finance Commission. So these are certain very important terms of reference. Terms of reference means in which area the recommendations are provided. These are called as terms of references. But the most important one, I repeat, the most important one is the first one, distribution of tax proceeds between the union and the states, right? That is vertical devolution as well as horizontal devolution. Now, so far, please remember this, for 15 finance commissions have been set up. Right now we are in the financial year 24. So right now the recommendation of 15th finance commission is being implemented. Point number one, so far 15 EFCs have been appointed. Right now, the recommendations of the 15th Finance Commission are being implemented. And the time period, the 5-year time period, the 15th Finance Commission will cover will be from 2021 to 2026. Of course, this is financial year 2021 to financial year 2026. Right. So right now we are basically implementing the recommendations of 15th EFC. Point number three, the chairman of 15th FC was Mr. N.K. Singh. The chairperson of the 15th Finance Commission was Mr. N.K. Singh, the same person who headed, right, who chaired the FRBM Review Committee, Mr. N.K. Singh. Now, what are the recommendations? What kind of recommendations have been provided by the 15th FC? First one, vertical devolution formula. Vertical devolution formula. The vertical devolution formula that has been recommended by the 15th FC is 41%. Please remember, it is 41%. Right? That is from 14th to 15th FC. In the 14th FC, they recommended 42% vertical devolution. 15th FC has adjusted this to 41%. Now, many of you ask me, sir, why? Right? Earlier, if you have seen, the vertical devolution formula from 11th to 12th to 13th to 14th, the vertical devolution formula has increased. Why suddenly in the 15th FC it has been changed? Why the trend has been changed? Reason is very simple. Earlier, when the 14th FC gave recommendation, Jammu and Kashmir was a state, right? And by the time 15th Finance Commission recommendations were, right, given, Jammu and Kashmir was broken down into union territories. which means number of states in India, I repeat, number of states in India have come down. So the Finance Commission said, rather than allocating 42%, I will simply adjust this to 41%. Is it okay? I'll simply adjust this to 41% because there's a union territory which will take 1%. So this is the reason why 15th FC adjustment has been done in the vertical devolution formula. Point number one. Point number two, what about horizontal devolution? What about horizontal devolution? Now I've given a table here. Should you remember this table? No. Do not waste your time. Do not remember all of this table. It's of no importance to you. Then you will ask me, sir, what should I remember? You should remember the 15th FC 6 parameters. In fact, it is there separately given here. Simply by heart these 6 parameters. In fact, I don't know how many of you have checked. If you have seen the prelims paper, the recently conducted this year's prelims paper, let me know, was there a question on this table? Let me know how many of you have seen. I don't know. If you have seen the prelims 2023 question paper, there was a question on this table itself, right? Which means question already has been asked by the UPSC on the 15th FC recommendations, right? So I hope you understand. Right, earlier batches also I told the same thing. Do not worry about anything else. Simply by heart the table. Even today I will tell you the same thing. Do not worry about anything else. Simply by heart the table. There are 6 parameters which have been considered. Using which horizontal devolution will be decided. I will tell you what is the calculation, etc. Although it is absolutely of no use for UPSC, I'll tell you. Just give me 1 minute. I'll explain it in 2 minutes. Okay. Now, what are the 6 parameters? Population of 2011. Population of 2011. Whatever is the population of 2011 of individual states, the weightage has been given 15%. But the highest weightage has been given for income distance of 45%. Now, many of you will start typing what you mean by income distance. I would recommend not needed. I would simply recommend to you absolutely not required. But anyways, I will try to tell you, but again, even if you don't understand, leave it. UPSC will not ask you. It is not at all needed. Because many of you will ask you what is income distance. Income distance is calculated this way. That is, what is the distance between the per capita gross state domestic product of 3 financial years 2016 to 2019 of the state with the highest per capita income and the state with lowest per capita income. Is it okay? Right, again, if you have not understood, leave it. Not at all needed. Not at all needed. Why I'm telling you this, many of you start asking, sir, what is this tax and fiscal effort? Explain to me. What is this forest and ecology? Explain to me. What is this area? Explain to me. What is this demographic performance? Explain to me. Not at all needed. Simply by heart the 6 parameters and go forward. But again, which has the highest weightage in these 6 parameters? It is basically the income distance, which has a weightage of 45%. Which has the lowest weightage, right? That is basically 2.5% of tax and fiscal efforts. Right? Why I'm telling you to remember this by heart this? Question has been asked on the table. If a similar question has to be asked next year, what they might do is they might ask you to arrange these parameters in descending order of their weightage. Correct? They might ask you to arrange, they will give you these parameters. They will ask you to arrange these parameters in descending order or ascending order of the weightage. For that particular purpose, I am asking you, advising you, simply by heart the table and remember the weightages. If it is difficult to remember weightages, rather than simply by hearting table like this, arrange them in ascending order or descending order by heart it. And this is my advice to you. Now, a couple of you are asking, what is the use of the weightages? What is the importance of the weightages? Let me show you one calculation. Please look at the calculation here. Again, do not by heart the calculation. UPSC will not ask you this. What is the calculation done here? Rather than 6 parameters, I repeat, Rather than 6 parameters, I've assumed only two parameters are there. Only two parameters. One is the population, second one is the area. One is the population, second one is the area. So population, let's say, has been given a weightage of 40%. Area has been given a weightage of 60%. And this is a hypothetical calculation. Hypothetical, okay? It's a hypothetical calculation. Population is given, let's say, 40%. Area is given a weightage of 60%. Now, if a total transfer to the states from the vertical devolution, I repeat, from the vertical devolution, if the states will collect, let's say, or get 100 crore rupees, how it will be distributed? Let me show it to you. Right, 40% weightage is for population. So out of 100 crore, how much will be 40%? Can I say 40 crore rupees? All of you okay with this? It is given right in front of you in the bracket. Right, weightage is 40%, which means out of 100 crore, 40% will be 40 crore. And area will have a weightage of 60, means 60 crore rupees. Now, how do we use this 40 crore and 60 crore to give to the states? Let's assume only two states are there. S1 will have a population of 30% of the total population, and S2 will have a remaining 70% of the population. Now, underpopulation, how much money has been allocated? 40 crore rupee has been allocated. So I will basically break down this 40 crore into 30% as well as 70%. Can you get these numbers? Are you able to understand why I've written 12 crore as well as 28 crore? Simple CSAT calculations. 30% of 40 crore will go to state 1 because state 1 has 30% of total population. 70% of 40 crore will go to state 2 because the state 2 has 70% of the population. Apply the same logic for remaining 60 crore as well. State 1 has an area of 20% and state 2 has a remaining area of 80%. So 60 crore will be broken down into 20% as well as 80%. So 12 crore will go to state 1 and 48 crore will go to state 2. This is how the funds which are allocated under vertical devolution, this is how funds will be distributed using horizontal devolution formula for all the individual states. Now, based on this, please tell me, think of it rationally and tell me, don't you think the most populated states will get the highest amount of funds as per the recommendation of 15th FC? Yes or no? If you ask me, sir, which is the most populated states in India? Uttar Pradesh, right? UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, right? So all of these states which are very much highly populated will get lot of funds because of horizontal devolution formula. On the other side, don't you think some of the states, best example, northeastern states, the funds allocated will be very, very less. Correct? The funds allocated would be very, very less for them. What about some of the southern states, such as, I'll give you examples, such as Telangana, such as Karnataka, such as Kerala? Do you think they will agree to these kind of formulas where population or the state which has majority population will end up getting lot of funds under horizontal devolution? That is the precise reason the southern states opposed this formula. I hope you understand this. That is the reason the southern states opposed this formula. The argument of southern states, basically the two very important arguments are these. One, government of India in 1970s promoted population control. All of you will agree with this? Government of India in 1970s promoted population control, and southern states compared to northern states have implemented reforms in a better way. Is it okay? Right? Southern states compared to northern states have implemented the population control measures much faster in a much better way. And that is the reason the population in southern states has been controlled in a much better way compared to northern states. Now, their argument is by considering and giving weightage to population, are you not penalizing us? Yes or no? Does it make sense to you? Right? Are you not penalizing us because we have implemented the reforms in a better way? Right? So that is one fold argument. What is the second argument? If you look at which states contribute a huge amount to tax collection, huge contribution to GDP, it will be states such as Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, etc. Industrial states. Is it okay? Industrial states. They contribute greatly to tax collection as well as GDP. So their argument is when it is the question of tax collection, contribution to GDP, industrialization, you want us to contribute more. But when it is a question of distribution of the proceeds, distribution of these, you will give us less money. Is it okay? That is the argument. That is the argument of southern states. But having said so, right, there is a very strong argument in favor of the formula. There is a very strong argument. What is a strong argument in favor of such formula? In fact, Mr. N.K. Singh was the chairman of the 15th Finance Commission, basically voiced it. The argument of having or following this kind of formula is, don't you think more populated states means those states will require more assistance? Yes or no? And don't you think more populated states means those states will require more assistance? And that is what we are doing. Right? So I hope you understand there. Both the sides argument are there. Right? Both the sides arguments are there. Right? So there are counter arguments, there are pro arguments, etc. But you be aware. You please be aware of whatever is happening. Have both the sides of the arguments. If at all a question is asked, you should have sufficient data. Okay, done. Right, so this is the discussion regarding 15th Finance Commission. Now I've given a table here. Do not by heart the complete table. It is of no use for you. Do not waste your time. Simply look at the last column. If you want what kind of questions can be asked from this table, look at the table and I'll give you statement 1. Listen to me very carefully. Statement 1. Let me know whether this statement is correct or wrong. 15th Finance Commission is the first finance commission to consider 2011 population. Correct or wrong? 15th Finance Commission is the first finance commission to consider population of 2011 in horizontal devolution. Statement is wrong. Statement is wrong. Some of you are saying correct. Why, my dear? Can you see 10% weightage for 14th FC? Can you see 10% weightage in the 14th FC for population 2011? Statement 2. Statement 2. 15th Finance Commission is the first finance commission to give weightage only to 2011 population, right, in horizontal devolution. Do you understand the difference between the first statement and second statement? Please be very careful. Understand the difference between the first statement as well as second statement. In the first statement, I said it is the Finance Commission to give weightage, first Finance Commission to give weightage for 2011, which is wrong. Second statement, I said it is the first Finance Commission to give weightage only to 2011 population. It is correct. It is correct. It is giving weightage only for 2011 population, nothing else. Okay, done. Right, so apart from that, many kind of questions can be asked. Just go through the table. Do not by heart the whole table. Okay, done. Now, apart from this, one more set of data, one more small set of data. The total amount of taxes collected by the government between 21 to 26 is estimated to be 135 lakh crore rupees. I'll repeat the statement. The total amount of tax proceeds which are expected to be collected by the union government between 21 to 26 is 135 lakh crore rupees. Out of this, if you take out, right, assessors, surcharges, etc., how much money will go to the divisible pool? 103 lakh crore rupees. 103 lakh crore will go to divisible pool. And out of that, if you calculate 41%, it will come out to be 42.2 lakh crore rupees. But apart from this, right, one type of a transfer is the distribution of taxes. As per the vertical devolution formula, distribution of taxes that will happen between the center to states. But in addition to this, don't you think center will also transfer certain grants to the states? All of you okay with the second point? In addition to the vertical devolution, the center will also transfer certain grants to the states. I'll give you certain data just to by heart. I'll give you certain data what kind of grants have been proposed. Right? So if you take the tax proceeds as per vertical devolution plus the grants, the total amount of funds which will be transferred from the center to the states from 21 to 26 will be around 52 lakh crore rupees. It will be around 52 lakh crore rupees. Right, so 42 lakh estimated, 42 lakh estimated because of 41% and all the grants put together, another 10 lakh rupees. Total funds are transferred from the center to the states as per the estimates which are recommended by the 15th Finance Commission is over 52 lakh crore rupees. Over 52 lakh crore rupees. Done? Right, so these are some of the important recommendations. What kind of grants have been recommended, etc., we will have a look at it after the break. Any questions if you have, please do let me know. Any questions you have, please do let me know. Otherwise, we'll take a break now. How 14th give weightage to both? How does it work out? Apply the same logic, my dear. Apply the same logic. Did we discuss how weightages are used in distribution of tax proceeds? Apply the same logic. Right, out of the total taxes that will be devolved, imagine 10% will be given based on 2011 population, hypothetically. Another 5% will be given based on 1971 population. Again, I'm just throwing arbitrary numbers here. Same as we have discussed earlier. Okay, what is grant? Grant is simply a transfer of money. Grant is simply a transfer of money. Money is a transfer. That's it. One-sided transfer. What is divisible pool? Divisible pool means the money that is collected from the central government, which will be divided between the center and states. Which will be divided between center and states. Because we are dividing it, it will be called as divisible pool. Okay. Explain again pie chart for income source. My dear, what is there in that? Central government will borrow, amount is given, right? I believe 34%, right? Other sources around 6% is there, right? Income tax is there, that is around 11 to 12, whatever number is there. Income tax, GST, all the numbers are given. What is the difficulty? I don't understand. What is the difficulty in that pie chart? Government will impose income tax. Out of the total income, it will be around 17%. They will impose and collect the GST. It will be around 17 to 18%. They will borrow. It will be around 34%. And numbers are given. That's it. Okay. Okay. Concept of pan India means throughout India. Right? Pan India means throughout India. Again, some of the students are right, very trivial questions. These are very trivial, my dear. Right? Don't get bogged down by these kind of questions. Pan India. Have you not heard of even pan India word? Right? In movies, pan India actor, pan India star, etc. Why do they use those terms? Pan India means throughout India. Right? Some of you are worried about pure English now. Pure English. Right? Don't be worried about all of it. Sir, in vertical devolution table, numbers will change or it will be fixed. Recommendations will be fixed. For 5 years, it will be fixed. After 5 years, it will keep on changing. Sir, how 41% is given to states? Whatever is the total devolution, calculate 41% of it. The calculation is there right in front of you. Right? How much is the divisible pool? 103 lakh crore. Calculate 41% of it, 42 lakh crore. Out of that, let's say 15% is for population. Calculate how much will be 15% that will be allocated for population. Right? Around 40% is for income distance. Out of 42 lakh, allocate 40% of that for income distance. We have discussed that again. Okay. Any other doubt? Any other doubt? Should we remember vertical devolution? I've told you, please remember this table. Please remember this table, and for 15th Finance Commission, 41%. More than sufficient. I just wanted to know about the classification in which you classify different sources. There's no classification. Which classification did I use? I simply said, if you look at the pie chart, I said most of the money that is collected by the government is in the form of taxation. Right? I said most of the income receipts collected by the government is in the form of taxation. And couple of students, no, 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 it is not in the form of taxation. What I did was basically I added non-tax sources. It was around 42%. Hence I said 58% is through taxes. Okay. Okay, done. Let's take a break. Let's take a break. We'll restart the discussion at 7:10. We'll restart the discussion at 7:10 p.m. Please join back at 7:10. Okay, welcome back. Am I audible? Let me know. Am I audible? Can we start the discussion now? Done. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. So, just before the break, we have discussed how vertical devolution formula will be used to distribute tax proceeds. Right? How divisible pool will be divided. Right? Vertical devolution formula will be used. Then horizontal devolution, tax proceeds. But apart from that, we also have seen that Finance Commission will also recommend grants. Grants are nothing but one-sided money transfers. So what kind of grants have been recommended by the 15th FC? My recommendation or advice to all of you is by heart it. Simply by heart it. Don't read everything in detail. UPC is not going to ask all of it. By heart it. So revenue deficit grant of 2.9 lakh crore for 17 states initially, but over a period of time, it will be reduced. What is this revenue deficit grant? Just like the central government, even the states will have revenue deficit. Is it okay? Just like the central union, even the states will have revenue deficit. But there are certain states whose revenue positions are weak. They have very weak revenue generation capacity. In order to provide certain relief to such states, revenue deficit grant of 2.9 lakh crore rupee for 5 years has been recommended. Second, sector specific grants. 8 sectors have been identified by the 15th FC, 8 sectors such as judiciary, agriculture, right, roadways, education, etc. For all of these 8 sectors put together for 5 years, it has recommended 1.3 lakh crore rupees worth of grants. Third one is state specific grants of how much? Around 49,600 crore rupee. Grants to local bodies, that is municipalities and panchayats, how much? 4.3 lakh crore rupees. And grants for disaster management of 1.6 lakh crore rupees. So these are the different types of grants. All the grants put together, the total for 5 years is somewhere just around, right, just over 10 lakh crore rupees. So these are the different types of grants which have been recommended by 15th FC, which central government is expected to pay in the next, right, or let's say in the duration of 21 to 26. Apart from this, the 15th FC also has recommended that the union government, whenever they will go for extra budgetary borrowings, such as off budget borrowing, there should be a full disclosure of it. And over a period of time, we should eliminate the methodology of extra budgetary borrowings or extra budgetary resources. Whatever borrowing you want to do it directly under fiscal deficit. Do not borrow indirectly under the concept of extra budgetary resources. The states and center should stick to whatever targets they have been given under FRBM, stick to those targets and achieve those targets. And for a better implementation of these kind of policies, and for having better implementation, set up expert panel, set up a panel, a committee, which will recommend how do we improve the collection of data, how do we implement policies in a much better way, etc. For the better financial management, for better financial management, set up a committee and right, take the recommendations, seek recommendations from the committee. Okay. Next, regarding taxation, what has the recommendation been done by the 15th FC? What have they recommended? First one, they have recommended that we have to broaden the tax base. We have to broaden the tax base. Right? Do you remember the term tax base? Let me know. Do you remember the term tax base? Tax base basically refers to any object on which we are going to impose and collect taxes. That is called as a tax base. Right? So you'll have to broaden the tax base. Reason is, if you broaden the tax base, automatically the tax receipts will start increasing. Okay. Streamline the tax rates. Capital gains tax, we have to streamline it. What about GST? We have to streamline the rates, etc. So streamline means make the system much more effective. Change the rates to improve the efficiency of the taxation system. increase the capacity and expertise of tax administration at all the levels of the government, right? Create infrastructure, train the tax officials, provide them with a better kind of technology, let them be equipped with a better kind of technology so that the implementation of the taxation, collection of the taxation shall improve over a period of time. In terms of GST, the 15th Finance Commission has observed that before the implementation of GST, we expected the collections to be very, very high. But after the implementation, it has been seen that there's a lot of volatility in the GST revenue collection. So we have to address the volatility in the GST. Volatility means right, basically movement. Lot of changes are happening in the amount of GST that you're collecting. First and foremost, we expected lot of revenue to be collected. That is not happening. Second, there is no certainty, right? There is no stagnancy in the revenue collection. Volatility, right? That is a fall, rise, fall. Lot of volatility is actually happening. Okay, done. Right. So these are some of the challenges that the 15th FC has basically identified. Last recommendation regarding defense sector. The 15th FC has stated that Government of India should set up a fund. 15th FC should set up a fund, and the name of the fund that has been recommended is Modernization Fund for Defense and Internal Security, MFDIS. Modernization Fund for Defense and Internal Security, or else the Hindi name for that, which has been recommended, is Rashtriya Suraksha Naivedyam Kosh. Now, from where the money will be given allocated for this particular fund, the central government can transfer certain amount from consolidated fund of the government. Certain amount from consolidated fund can be transferred. Whenever the defense sector will sell assets in the market, whenever the defense sector will sell, let's say, a public sector company in the market, they will collect money. They can transfer this amount into this fund. If the defense sector will give land on lease to the states, the state government has to pay money for that. That money can be taken, deposited into this fund. So there are different ways through which money can be collected under modernization fund for defense and internal security. Now, what is the use of these funds? What is the utility of these funds? The 15th Finance Commission recommends that we can use these funds for one, investment in modernization of our defense sources. We can invest this particular fund or certain amount of money to modernize our defense services. Second, we can also use for investment and creating infrastructure, capital expenditure, capital investment can be done for various state police forces or a central armed police force, whichever is identified by the Ministry of Home Affairs. MHA means Ministry of Home Affairs. So the Ministry of Home Affairs will identify state police forces or armed police forces. We can use these funds to provide a capital investment for these. Next, a small component of this fund shall also be reserved to provide welfare for the defense personnel, to provide for welfare expenditure for our defense personnel such as soldiers, paramilitary soldiers, etc. So these are some of the usages, right? Some of the ways that the funds can be utilized. Has Government of India set up a fund? As of now, no. MFDIS is just a recommendation. It is yet to be set up. Okay, so these are certain very important recommendations of 15th Finance Commission. Can we go forward now? Can we go forward? Sir, 15th FC like taxation, defense, grant in aid, etc. all are important for the exam. My recommendation is try to remember these recommendations. This is my advice to you. UPSC generally focuses, I repeat, UPSC generally focus on the vertical devolution and horizontal devolution. But what if next year, because there is a discussion regarding 16th FC. I don't know how many of you have read in the newspapers. If you have not read, check it in the Google. Right now, there is a discussion regarding establishing appointment of 16th Finance Commission. There is a discussion. Suddenly, what UPSC can do is they might ask you a descriptive question to discuss recommendations of 15th FC. They might ask you, right? You cannot simply rule it out. In that case, you cannot write 250 words taking only vertical devolution or horizontal devolution. You cannot do that. That will not be sufficient, right? You will have to write about grants. You'll have to write about recommendations in taxation. You'll have to write about recommendations in defense sector in order to ensure that expansive coverage is there. You have covered lot of recommendations and within 250 words, right? So that is the reason I'm recommending. Remember, try to remember these kind of recommendations. Okay, done. So this is the end of the chapter. This is the end of the chapter of budgeting as well as finance commission. Questions are there. We will solve it after 8 o'clock today. We'll come back to the questions, don't worry. We'll discuss the questions, but after 8 o'clock we'll come back to the questions. Now, next chapter that I'll be discussing is the concept of financial market. Idea of financial market. Now, point number one, right? Or before that, what we'll be discussing? This is the index of the chapter. Index of the chapter. We'll discuss what is financial market. We'll discuss capital market, money market. We'll discuss instruments under money market. We'll discuss external commercial borrowings, ECB. We'll discuss ETF, sovereign gold bonds, masala bonds, right? We'll discuss P notes, right, etc., etc. So, lot of current affairs. Lot of these points are from current affairs. We'll have a discussion. For example, have you heard of mutual funds? Heard or not? You might have not read. I do understand. You might have not read. But if you're watching news, if you're watching cricket match, etc., you will come across mutual fund ad. So we'll discuss the idea of a mutual fund under this chapter itself. Don't worry. So a lot of current affairs concepts we'll discuss under this concept of a financial market. Now let me start. Let me start. Financial market refers to a market where funds will be transferred. Funds are transferred whenever instruments are traded. How do you define financial market? It is a market where funds will be transferred from one party to another party with trading. Trading means buying and selling of instruments. For example, please tell me, can I say this is a type of instrument? Let me know. Can I say this is a type of instrument? Of course, what kind of instrument it is? It is a bond. Bond is a type of instrument. Have you heard of shares? Have you heard of shares? Adani company shares, Tata company shares, Infosys shares. Shares are also instruments only. So in a financial market, instruments are bought, instruments are sold. Right? Whenever instruments are bought, instruments are sold, instruments are issued, money will be transferred. Money is transferred in the market whenever the instruments are traded. Such a market is called as a financial market. Now, financial market is divided into two parts. Financial market is divided into two parts. One is called as the capital market. Second one is money market. Now, what is the difference between a capital market and a money market? Let me explain this. Listen carefully. But before that, let me start with a very simple example. And I'll connect it to current affairs. I'll connect it to current affairs. So listen carefully. Imagine here is a company. Okay. Imagine here is a company. Company will require money to spend on day-to-day basis for day-to-day operations. Sir, what is the example of day-to-day operations? Example, raw material. Correct? Raw material. What about wages of labor? What about electricity cost? So is it okay if I say company will incur expenditure for day-to-day operations? And please remember this, whenever companies will spend money on day-to-day operations, that money is called as working capital. That is referred to as working capital, working capital. And second, company will also require money for investment purposes. Company will also require money for investment purposes. What kind of investment? Capital investment. For example, company will purchase machinery. Correct? Company will purchase machines. Company will set up a new manufacturing facility. They will set up a new manufacturing facility. Company will purchase a land. Can I say all these are capital investments? Right? So these are types of investments. These are called as capital expenditures. These are called as capital expenditures, capex, or capital investments. Now, why this is important? Please tell me. Very recently, was there a judgment by Supreme Court of India regarding telecom companies spending money to purchase spectrum? Let me see how many of you are reading newspapers. Let me see. Very recently, Supreme Court of India has issued a judgment regarding telecom companies' expenditure in purchasing, right, a spectrum. Right, it is applicable to this classification itself. It is applicable to this classification. Supreme Court of India said, no, no, no. Spectrum money, you cannot count it as a part of working capital. You'll have to count it as an investment, a capital expenditure like this. It was there in the newspapers. Those who are saying, no, I don't know, my dear, do yourself a favor. Please do yourself a favor. Go to Google, type Supreme Court plus a spectrum plus a working capital. You will get the answer to that. Go to Google, type it, you will get the answer to this. Suddenly, can UPSC ask a question on the concept of working capital as well as capital investment? Because of that? Yes or no? Right? Because of such a judgment of Supreme Court of India, can suddenly UPSC ask you a question on which of the following can be considered as working capital expenses? Which of the following can be considered as investment, capital investment expenses by the companies? Definitely yes. Definitely yes. Many of you will keep on scolding, write a book, you'll keep on scolding me, etc., because it was not discussed, but it was there in the current affairs. So please be very careful. Please be very careful. Lot of discussions happening regarding this concept also because of Supreme Court judgment. Now, come back to the discussion here. Come back to the discussion. Whenever companies want to borrow for working capital, I repeat, whenever companies want to borrow for working capital, they will borrow for a shorter duration. They will borrow for shorter duration. What do you mean by shorter duration here? Less than 1 year. Less than 1 year. Why? These are working capital requirements. Right? These are working capital requirements. As and when they will generate revenue, they will keep on repaying the loan. So they will borrow for less than 1 year, shorter duration. And whenever they want to borrow for a shorter duration, please remember always, they will go to money market. We will discuss instruments in some time. They will go to money market. Companies will go to money market, or the borrowers will go to money market. On the other side, whenever companies want to borrow for investment purposes, capex purposes, capital expenditure purposes, the companies will go to capital market. They will go to capital market. And what is the importance of capital market? You tell me. If you are the owner of the company, will you borrow for 3 months in order to construct a manufacturing facility? Will you borrow for let's say 45 days in order to let's say purchase a machinery? No, you will borrow for longer duration, medium duration or longer duration, okay, more than 1 year. So I hope you understand the logic here. What is a money market? It is a market where instruments with lesser maturity period, whose duration is lower, whose duration is less, these types of instruments are traded. Traded means bought, sold, issued. Whereas capital market is a market where instruments with a longer maturity period, that is more than 1 year, are bought, are sold, are issued. All of you okay with the argument here? Anybody has an issue? Money market, deals with instruments with short term. Short term means less than 1 year. Whereas capital market means those that market which will deal with instruments which have medium term or long term, in simple terms, more than 1 year duration. Second, mainly deals with the financing of working capital. Money market deals with providing working capital for the issuers, whereas capital market deals with investment as well as promotes capital formation. Third, banks are the most important participants. We'll discuss instruments, you'll understand. Banks are the most important participants, right? Whereas in case of capital market, banks are there, mutual funds are there, insurance companies are there, foreign investors are there, you are there, I am there, right? So capital market participation is much more wider, right? Capital market participation of investors is much more wider. Participation of general public. General public means individual investors, right? Such as you and me. We are called as individual investors, retail investors. So participation of public in money market is very less, very less. Very few instruments we can participate. Whereas in case of capital market, no. Can you purchase a bonds of government of India? Yes. Can you purchase a shares of Adani company? Yes. Can you purchase a sovereign gold bonds? Yes. So the participation in the capital market of public, general public, is very, very high, comparatively much higher than money market. And finally, who is the regulator for money market? Reserve Bank of India. RBI is the regulator for money market, whereas in case of capital market, it is Securities Exchange Board of India. SEBI stands for Securities Exchange Board of India, SEBI. Now, what are the instruments in money market? What are the instruments in capital market? Let's go one by one. What kind of instruments are there in money market? What kind of instruments are there in capital market? Now, simple question to you people. Please look at the first and second. Please look at the first and second, specifically within that also, first one. Please tell me repo rate and a reverse repo rate. Is it a short-term tool or a long-term tool? Let me see how many of you remember. Repo and reverse repo. We have discussed both of them under RBI. Right? Monetary policy tools which are used by RBI. Repo and reverse repo, is it a short-term tool or a long-term tool? All of you will agree it's a short-term tool. Yes or no? It's a short-term tool, right? Used for less than 1 year. It could be for 7 days. It could be for 14 days. It could be for 28 days. But yes, less than 1 year. So let me know. In case of repo and reverse repo, one party is giving a loan, another party is taking a loan. Yes or no? Instruments are there, G security, security, etc. Right? I hope remember the concept. Right? Repo operations, right? That is repurchasing operations, reverse repurchasing operations. Right? Repo means what? One party selling a asset for a shorter duration with the promise of repurchasing it at a specific price. So all of you will agree, repo and reverse repo, assets are transferred, instruments are traded, and money is transferred for a shorter duration. So can I say repo and reverse repo are part of money market? Yes or no? Repo and reverse repo are part of money market. Everybody is okay with this? It's just a revision, right? Right. We have already discussed. It's not the first time that we have come across repo and reverse repo. Earlier last week, we have discussed what is repo, what is reverse repo, and how they are short term. What does RBI do? What does a bank do? Everything is over now. It's just a revision. Now I'll start discussing from second, third, fourth, and fifth. Let's start. Second one is call money market. Second one is call money market. What do you mean by call money market? One bank will give a loan for a very short duration to another bank. Very simple. What is a call money market? One bank, a financial institution, that is a bank, will give a short term loan to another bank. Now, many people ask me, sir, why? Why are they giving loans? Why are they taking loans? My dear, you tell me, if you're the manager of a bank, don't you think on certain days you might be falling short of certain money to meet SLR criteria? Possible or not? On certain day, you might be falling short in meeting LCR criteria. So there will be situations. There will be situations, right? Possibilities are, and generally it happens. It happens, right? So argument is banks might need money for a very short duration. In such cases, they can always take a loan for short duration from another bank. They can take a loan from another bank, and that market is called as call money market. Point number one. Point number two, if B1 is giving loan to B2, B1 will charge rate of interest. Correct. B1 is giving a loan to B2, B1 will charge rate of interest. This is called as call money rate. This is referred to as call money rate. So the rate of interest that is charged by bank 1 whenever they will provide a loan to bank 2 in the call money market, it is called as call money rate. Point number 3, if B2 will take a loan only for 1 day, 1 day means overnight. 1 day is nothing but overnight. So if B2 will take loan for overnight basis, this is called as call money. Only for 1 day, it is called as call money. But rather than 1 day, what if B2 will take loan for 7 days? What if B2 will take loan for 28 days or 14 days? 14 is more important. 28 days generally they will not take, but let's say 14 days. In such cases, it is referred to as notice money. All of you okay with this? If they take loan for only 1 day, it is called as call money. If they will take loan for 7 days or 14 days, it is called as notice money. Right? So these are certain very important points regarding call money market. Any problem? Can we go forward? Can we go forward? Any issues? How much interest rate is charged? My dear, it will keep on changing. It will keep on changing in the market. For example, please tell me, can I say liquidity situation in the market will definitely have an influence over call money rate? Let me know. Those who are asking how much interest rates they will charge, don't you think it again depends on demand and supply in the economy? Correct or not? Demand and supply. It cannot be stagnant. It cannot be stagnant. It depends on demand and supply of liquidity in the market. So from 1 day to another day, rates will keep on changing. Okay, done? Can we go forward? This is a concept of call money market. This is a concept of call money market, but more importantly, it is a tool for a shorter duration. It is a tool for shorter duration. And because it is a tool for borrowing for shorter duration, we will keep it under the money market. We will simply allocate it under the money market, right? So this is one more instrument under money market. So repo, reverse repo, and call money market. Right? Repo and reverse repo and call money market. Come to the third one, commercial papers. Come to the third one, commercial papers. Commercial papers are issued by companies. Please remember this. Commercial papers are issued by companies. Right? Companies will issue commercial papers. Point number one. Point number two. Not all the companies in India are allowed to issue commercial papers. Only those companies which have got a very good credit rating, are allowed to issue commercial papers. What is a credit rating? Tomorrow we will discuss that. There's a concept of credit rating. Very recently it was there in the current affairs as well. India's credit rating is Baa3, the lowest in the investment grade, etc. But don't worry, what is credit rating? We'll discuss that tomorrow. Just like CIBIL score. Do you remember CIBIL score? Correct. For individuals, we have a CIBIL score. Higher the CIBIL score, it represents credit worthiness of the borrower. In case of companies, In case of governments, instead of civil, they will use the term credit rating. And tomorrow we'll discuss that. Right? What is a triple A? What is a double A? What is BAA3? Right? What does it represent? Etc. etc. Right? Basically, credit rating means representation of a credit worthiness of a borrower. Credit rating will represent credit worthiness of a borrower. Either we will simply use alphabets or we will use a combination of alphabets and numbers. That is basically idea of a credit rating. We'll discuss again tomorrow in detail, don't worry. So concept of commercial paper was introduced back in 1990. In fact, there's a committee name regarding this which recommended commercial papers, Vogel Committee. Vogel Committee, VOGHUL, Vogel Committee. Vogel Committee recommended that we should have commercial papers so that companies which have got very good credit rating will be able to borrow from the market. Now, many of you will have this doubt, sir, why are the companies borrowing from the market? The reason is very simple. Imagine you're owner of a company. You're an owner of a company. You can go to a bank, borrow for 3 months, take a working capital loan for 3 months from a bank, and the bank will charge you, I'll take an arbitrary number, let's say 5.6% rate of interest. Hypothetical number, by the way. Okay. So you want a working capital loan, you'll go to a bank, the bank says they will charge you 5.6% rate of interest. On the other hand, what if you have an option to issue commercial papers at a rate of interest of 5.4%? Please tell me, will you opt to take a loan from a bank or will you issue a commercial paper then? Let me know. Will you decide to take a loan from a bank or will you choose to borrow money for working capital by issuing commercial paper? Don't you think issuing commercial papers will provide better offer to you? That is, the rate of interest that you will pay is comparatively lesser. So that is the reason many companies in India actually do this. They will issue commercial papers whenever the interest rates in the banking sector have increased, so that they'll be able to borrow for working capital for a very, very short duration. Okay, right. So that is one more very important point. Next, commercial papers are unsecured in nature. Commercial papers are unsecured. Unsecured means what? The company which is issuing these instruments doesn't provide any security, doesn't provide any collateral, right? The company doesn't provide any collateral, right? That is the reason these are called as unsecured. Next, who can purchase these commercial papers? Right? You can purchase, I can purchase, and many other institutional investors can purchase, banks can purchase, foreign investors are allowed to purchase, etc. Right? So these right are basically the points regarding the concept of commercial papers. But more importantly, look at the point number 2 here. Look at the point number 2. These are the instruments which have a maturity period of up to 1 year. Up to 1 year means what? Less than 1 year. So commercial paper can be issued for a duration of 3 months. They can be issued for a duration of 6 months. So when you are issuing an instrument to borrow from the market for a period less than 1 year, basically it is a money market instrument. Correct? Right? It's a money market instrument. Okay, so this is one more right, type of instruments in the money market. Next, certificate of deposit. Next one is the concept of certificate of deposit. Now, what is this certificate of deposit? Please listen carefully. Please listen carefully. Certificate of deposits are issued by banks. These are issued by financial institutions such as banks. Right? For example, many banks in India earlier, right, earlier have issued the certificates of deposit. Now, many of you will ask me, sir, why? Why does a bank use a certificate of deposit? They can collect deposits from all of us. Why? Why is that they're issuing certificates of deposit? My dear, generally what happens is at certain point of time, right? At certain point of time, the banks will find it very difficult to mobilize the deposits from customers. Yes or no? At certain point of time, the bank will find, right? The banks will find it very difficult to collect deposits from customers. Customers are not keeping deposits in the bank. They might be worried about uncertainty in the market. They might be worried about their jobs, etc., etc. So again, there are reasons. The banks might require a lot of money, lot of deposit for, let's say, 6 months, 9 months, etc., but they are not able to collect the deposits from customers. At that point of time, one option that is available for the banks is issue certificates of deposits. Issue certificates of deposits. Issue certificates of deposits. These deposits can be purchased by individuals, companies, etc. But the argument is simple. They will issue a certificate of deposit, collect money from you, and they'll pay you rate of interest. They'll pay you certain rate of interest on that. That is called as a certificate of deposit. COD is a certificate of deposit issued by financial institutions such as scheduled commercial banks, regional rural banks, small finance banks, etc. These are of short term, such as 6 months. These are tradable or transferable. What do you mean by tradable or transferable? Please tell me, if you purchase government bonds, can you sell it to somebody else in the market? Let me know. If you purchase shares of Adani company, can you sell it to somebody else in the market? Yes, some of you are saying no. Why? What is the problem? You tell me. You purchase share of Adani company. Can you sell it to me? Is there an option available to you? Of course, yes. Those who are saying no, please tell me why. Why are you saying no? Please tell me so that I can understand, right? I can understand what is the problem. You can purchase government bonds and you can sell it. In fact, my dear, then in that case, how did you understand the concept of yield rate of bonds? Let me know, right? How did you not understand? How did you understand the concept of yield rate? Right? It simply means you have not understood operation twist also, because in operation twist, yield rate, etc., the underlying idea is the bonds are tradable. Bonds are bonds can be purchased, bonds can be sold. That is the underlying factor which will determine yield rate. Right? So again, right? So please be very careful. Please be very careful. Right? So if you purchase shares, if you purchase bonds, many of these instruments you can sell them, you can trade them. Apply the same logic to certificate of deposit. Apply the same to certificate of deposits, right? So certificate deposits are also tradable in nature. You can sell them to other investors in the market. The minimum amount, right, of which you can purchase the certificate deposit with is 5 lakh rupees. The minimum amount of a certificate deposit that you will have to purchase is 5 lakh rupees. Done. So these are certain points regarding certificates of deposits. Can we go forward? Can we go forward? Anybody is facing issue? Call money market, is it unsecured? Generally, it is unsecured. It is between bank to bank. My dear, understand, it is between bank to bank. Generally, it is unsecured. Okay. Huh. Any other doubts? Commercial paper. Arey Baba. Imagine I'm a company. I want money for 3 months. I will issue this particular piece of instrument to you. Collect money. All of you okay? Just like a bond. But please understand the difference. In bond, maturity period is more than 1 year. Correct. In bond, maturity period is more than 1 year. But in case of a commercial paper, maturity period is less than 1 year. That's a basic idea. I will issue this instrument. You'll purchase it from me. You will give me money. After that, I will return the money to you along with interest. Right? So I hope you understand. Same logic. Only difference is companies will use commercial paper to borrow for short duration, bonds to borrow for longer duration. That's a basic idea. Okay. Sir, commercial papers are unsecured for whom then? Arey Baba. When I say instruments are unsecured, from whose context are you talking about? And how can you think of unsecured for issuer? What is the use of unsecured for the issuer? Right? Don't you think unsecured means for investor, no security is there? Again, I simply you're complicating everything. You have to revise. You have to understand the basics. Only then all of these will be you will be able to understand. Unsecured, is it for investor or a issuer? My dear, unsecured means, don't you think as an investor it is applicable to you? Okay, done. Next one, commercial bill. Commercial bill. Commercial bills are issued between traders. Commercial bills are issued between companies, issued between traders. What do you mean by this? Let's start. Imagine I have a company A. I will sell raw material to you, your company B. Are you able to understand? I am selling raw material to you, your company B. Now, you will not make the payment immediately. Please remember, this is how market will work. This is how market will work. I will supply raw material to you. You will not give me the money immediately. What you will do is, you will simply say, I will return the money. Let's say hypothetically, I'll take a hypothetical number, 2 lakh rupees. I will return the money of 2 lakh rupees, but after 45 days. Right? This is called as a credit purchase, credit cycle. This is very, very famous, by the way. You might have not come across it. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. This is how business will actually happen. This is how business will actually happen. For example, right? For example, you open a shop, right? Imagine you open a showroom. They will supply the products to you. You will tell them you will make a payment after 45 days. You'll make a payment after 60 days. This is called as a credit cycle. And this is exactly how businesses will work out. Now come back to the point. I have sold a certain raw material to you. You have promised me that you will make a payment of 2 lakh. That is the cost of raw material. But after 45 days. After 45 days. But now I will tell you, give me certain instrument, right? Give me a certain document which will show that you will have to give me 2 lakh rupees. Correct or not? If I sell to you and you are telling me orally, I will give you after 45 days, don't you think I should ask for a document from you which will prove that you have to give me 2 lakh rupees? That document is called as a commercial bill. That is right, referred to as a commercial bill, trade bill, or bill of exchange. Now what you will do is, right, understand this. You will give me this document. You will give me this document, and in the document it will be written that you will pay 2 lakh rupees to anybody who will have this document after 45 days. All of you okay with this? Right? You are writing in a document and saying, you, that is company B, will pay 2 lakh rupees to anybody who will have this document after 45 days. You will issue a document to me. I will take it, keep it with myself. After 45 days, I'll come to you. I will give you this document and you will pay me 2 lakh rupees. This is basically how commercial bills or a trade bill or bill of exchange will actually function. Right? So these are drawn by one business, firm or a company in another in exchange of credit transaction. In lieu means whenever credit transactions are conducted, the buyer who pays, who owes money will basically issue this document. And these are short-term instruments generally issued for a period of 90 days. These are tradable. These are tradable in the market, and the banks also will provide loans. Credit means loans on such instruments, right? And this process is called as a concept of bill discounting. All of you okay with this? Any problem with this? Can I go forward? This is called as a commercial bill. Let me connect a current affairs point to you. Let me connect a current affairs point to you. That is RBI. RBI. In fact, tomorrow is Friday. And what is the ritual every Friday? What is the practice that we have started? Every Friday, I'll give you a set of documents. I'm sorry, set of articles to read. I don't know how many of you have read in the last 2 weeks. Around 20 plus articles I've given to you. Tomorrow, again, I'll give you another 15 articles. Your duty to read. Now, I'll tell you one concept. There is a concept called as TREADS. It has been launched by RBI. Okay, there is this new mechanism called as a TREADS. What is a TREADS? Trade receivables, trade receivables, e-discounting system. Trade receivables, e-discounting system. E-discounting system. E means electronic. E-discounting system. Now, what do you mean by trades system here? Let's start. Here is a platform. Platform means website. Platform is nothing but website. Okay. I'm a seller. You are a buyer. Is it okay? I'm a seller. You are a buyer. Both of us are registered on the platform. Right? Both of us are registered on the platform. Now, what will happen is, once I sell the raw material to you, you will issue a digital bill. I'll repeat the statement. Once I will issue, right? Once I will issue the raw material to you or sell the raw material to you, you will issue a digital receipt, a digital bill in this platform. You will issue a digital bill. Online, simple online. Now, what is the use of this particular digital bill? Imagine I will wait for 45 days. After 45 days, you will give me 2 lakh rupees. All of you okay with this? Here is A, here is B. I will sell the raw material to you today. After 45 days, if I wait, you will give me 2 lakh rupees. But what if after 15 days, after 15 days, I will need money? Can it happen? Possible or not? Think of it. Can it happen? Of course, yes. After 15 days, what if I need money? I don't have money to purchase more raw materials. I don't have money to pay electricity bill. I don't have money to pay wages to the employees. So after 15 days, I need money. I will come to you and I will ask you for payment. Will you pay 30 days in advance? Let me know. Please do let me know. Will you pay the money 30 days in advance? If you do that, you are wrong. You do not know how to conduct business. You will tell me, sir, right? I know you have a problem, but I also don't have money. Please come to me after another 30 days. 15 days are over. Wait for another 30 days. I will make the payment to you. I'll guarantee make the payment to you, but not now. As per the agreement, it is after 45 days. So I've come to you. You said not possible. So what is the option now? There is a system. What is the system? In this platform, there are other participants, financial institutions. There are many other financial institutions who are referred to as financiers. Okay, these are referred to as financiers. Right? For example, sir, who is the financier? NBFCs. Many NBFCs are financiers. Okay. Now these financiers will purchase this trade receivable. Trade receivable means bill. They will purchase, right? Or I'll write sell. A will sell, right? These bills to a financier. Financier will pay money, but impose and collect certain charges. I'll repeat. Financier will pay money to me, but impose and collect certain charges from me. And after this, they will wait for next 30 days. After 30 days, after 30 days, they will provide this, right, the bill to B, and B will pay 2 lakh rupees to the financier. All of you okay with the system? Let me know. All of you okay with the system? I'll repeat it again. Listen to me carefully. Listen to me carefully. Let's go step by step. Step 1. Step 1. I will sell raw material to you. You will give me a bill, online bill, digital bill. I will wait for 45 days and I'll get the money. But what if I need money after 15 days? In that case, I will sell this particular bill to a financial institution who are referred to as financiers. Right? NBFCs can act as financiers. I will sell the bill to a financier. They will give me money, but they should also earn certain money, right? They should also generate revenue. So what they will do, for having provided the services, they will impose and collect certain charges from me. Now, this financier will wait for the next 30 days, and after 30, here 30 plus 15, 45 days. So after 30 days, they will give this particular bill to company B, that is you. You will pay 2 lakh rupees to the financier. This system is called as trade receivables e-discounting system. This is referred to as trade receivables e-discounting system. RBI has introduced this system in order to ensure that working capital availability for the smaller companies will be available much easier. Working capital availability will become much more easier for smaller companies, right? Because many of you will say, sir, in the earlier slide you said they can always approach a bank. Correct. They can always approach a bank and take a loan. But please tell me, if you approach a bank, will the bank provide you loan within 1 or 2 days? Is it guaranteed? Let me know. If you approach a bank, will the bank provide you this loan within 1 or 2 days? No guarantee. But here, under the TRED system, generally the funds are transferred to me within 24 to 48 hours. Within 24 to 48 hours, the funds will be transferred to me. So don't you think, in terms of getting access to working capital much sooner, I will prefer TREDs? Does it make sense or not? In terms of getting access to working capital much sooner, don't you think TREDs will make much better sense to me? And many will simply say, but sir, you will have to pay charges. My dear, if I take a loan from a bank, there also I'll have to pay charges. Correct or not? If I take loan from a bank, there also I'll have to pay charges. Here, I'm getting within 24 hours, I'll have to pay charges. Doesn't matter, anywhere I will have to pay the charges. So that is the precise reason TREDS system is becoming very, very famous now. TREDS is becoming very famous. In fact, for example, right, many of you are asking any example of it. There is a company by the name of M1 Exchange. There is a company by the name of M1 Exchange, lending card, etc. All these are basically providing this kind of platform itself, where the bills are getting discounted in this way. Done? Can we go forward? Can we go forward? Okay. So this is another concept of commercial bills. Commercial bills. Right. So we are done with repo and reverse repo, call money market, commercial papers, certificate of deposit, as well as commercial bills. Now let me shift to the other side, capital market. What is the concept of a capital market? What is this idea of a capital market? Capital market, first and foremost, I've told you, in capital market, instruments which will have a longer tenure, that's very important, longer maturity period, that is more than 1 year, are there. For example, tell me, can I say this is one of the instruments in the capital market? Let me know. Can I say this is one of the instruments in the capital market? Why? Look at the maturity period. Please look at the maturity period, right? So I hope you understand this. So capital market again further is divided into two parts. One is called as a debt market. Second one is called as equity market. One is a debt market. Second one is equity. What's the basic idea of a debt market and equity market? A company will issue instruments of more than 1 year tenure and borrow from the market. Is it okay? Debt market. A company or the issuer is borrowing by issuing instruments which will have a maturity period of more than 1 year. And for capital expenditure, for example, imagine you want to purchase a machine. Can you issue a bond with maturity period of 15 years, use the money to purchase machine? Does it make sense or not? I'll repeat the statement again. Right? You want to purchase a machine. You will issue a bond. You will issue a bond with maturity period of 15 years. Use the money to purchase a machine. Does it make sense or not? Right? Can you purchase a machine by issuing a commercial paper? No. Commercial paper is for 3 months, 6 months. But machinery you want to borrow for a longer duration. So I hope you understand the logic behind it. So instruments are issued in the debt market. Instruments are issued which will have a longer maturity period, that is more than 1 year. But because these are borrowings, the company is basically borrowing. I'll call this as a debt market. All of you okay with this? Right? Because the company is borrowing money. Borrowing means what? They will have to repay it. So that is the reason I'll call this as a debt market. On the other side, there is equity market. What is done in equity market? In equity market, ownership is transferred. Ownership is sold. Right? For example, imagine a company will issue 100 shares. Imagine a company will issue 100 shares. And if you purchase a 10 shares out of it, can I call you as a 10% owner of a company? Yes or no? In equity market, ownership, instruments representing ownership are sold. Whereas in case of debt market, instruments representing liability are issued. So that is a basic difference between a debt market and equity market. Right? Can we go forward now? In the debt market, I have given examples. So let's go point by point. One is called as a convertible bond. Second one is called as a non-convertible bond. Third one is called as a zero coupon bond. Fourth one is an indexed bond. Okay. Convertible, non-convertible, zero coupon, and indexed. Many more bonds are there. We'll discuss that. Have patience. For example, what do you mean by non-convertible bond? Right? Or let's start with convertible bond. Let's say hypothetically, imagine I'm issuing this bond to you. Point number one, I'm issuing this bond to you. But I will tell you, after 2 years, I repeat, after 2 years, if you want, this bond can be converted into share. Is it okay? I'll repeat the statement again. Listen carefully. I'm issuing this bond to you, but I am telling you, after 2 years, if you want, we will convert this bond into share. Can I call this bond as convertible bond? Yes or no? Can I call this bond as convertible bond? Any problem with the term convertible bond? Let me know. Convertible means, look at the name, convertible. From bonds, you can convert into another type of instrument such as share, convertible bond. But on the other hand, second example, I'm issuing this bond to you. I will simply tell you, hold the bond for 3 years. This bond has a maturity period of 3 years. After 3 years, return the bond to me. I will pay you 100 rupee back. Right? Understand the example here. This is one more bond. I will issue this bond to you. Have this bond for 3 years. After 3 years, return the bond to me. I will return your principal amount of 100 rupee. Can I call this as non-convertible bonds? Yes or no? Can I refer to these as non-convertible bonds? Anybody has a problem? Let me know. Anybody has a problem? For example, Government of India bond. Government of India will issue a bond. These are non-convertible. Government will not allow you to convert that into share. They will issue it as a bond. It will mature as a bond. Whereas in case of convertible, after a certain time period, you have an option to convert into a share. Convertible, non-convertible. Next one is concept of zero coupon. Slightly technical, listen to me very carefully. Concept of zero coupon. Now, what do you mean by zero coupon? Point number one, please tell me. Can I say in this bond, coupon rate is 6%? Don't worry about calculation given in the slide. Look at me. Look at the example. Can I say coupon rate in this example, in this bond is a 6%, right? Which means I will sell the bond to you at face value. Correct? Step one. I will sell the bond to you, right, at this price, and annually I will give you 6% of 100 rupee. All of you okay with this? And upon maturity, you will give the bond back to me. I will return the face value to you. I will return the face value to you. This is the concept of a normal bond. This is how normal bonds will work. But what do you mean by zero coupon? What do you mean by the term zero coupon? Can I say zero coupon is nothing but zero interest? Yes or no? Can I say zero coupon is nothing but zero interest? Point number one. Now you'll ask me, sir, what is a zero interest then? How can we earn zero interest? What if I say, understand this carefully. What if I say there is a bond whose value is 100? 100 means a face value. Okay. There is a bond whose face value is 100 rupee. I will sell it to you not at 100. Rather, I will sell it to you at 90 rupees. Think of it. The face value of the bond is 100 rupee. That is on the bond. Don't worry about 6%. Don't worry about 3 years. Right? Have a look at this. On the bond, what is written? What is the face value? 100 rupee. I will sell this to you and you will pay me how much? 90 rupee. Can I call this as discounted price? Let me know. Can I call this as discounted price? Which means you have purchased the bond by paying 90 rupee. And let's say upon maturity, once the bond is matured, I will give you the face value of the bond. What is the face value of the bond? What is the face value of the bond? Face value of the bond here is 100 rupee. So upon maturity, I will give you 100 rupee. So now tell me, you invested 90 rupee and upon maturity, I gave you 100 rupee. So did you earn on your investment? Point number one, did you earn on your investment? Anybody here in the classroom says, sir, I did not earn anything. So point number one, you have not lost money. You have earned money. You have earned money. You have paid 90, but you have got 100. That is point number one. Point number two, please tell me if the face value is 100. If the face value is 100 and if I give you 100 rupees upon maturity, if the face value is 100 and I give you 100 rupees, is there any coupon calculated on this bond? Is there any coupon calculated on this bond? Coupon is not calculated because coupon is calculated on the face value. So I've issued the bond lower than face value. Upon maturity, I will give you the face value, which means coupon is not calculated. Can I call such bonds? Can I call such instruments as zero coupon instruments? Correct? Zero coupon is a very common term. I hope you understand. Zero coupon is a very, very common term. Zero coupon means the instrument is not issued at face value. It is issued at lower than face value. And upon maturity, face value is actually given to the investor. If you apply the logic, same logic in case of bonds, I will call this as zero coupon bonds. If you apply the logic in case of bonds, I will call this as zero coupon bond. In fact, remember this. In fact, the treasury bills, I think I've written it. Let me check. Okay. In fact, treasury bills. right? Treasury bills follow a concept of zero coupon. I'm not saying treasury bills are bonds because they have a maturity period less than 1 year. I'm saying treasury bills follow the concept of zero coupon. Can you understand zero coupon concept means what in case of treasury bills? Treasury bill of let's say 91 days. Let's say there's a treasury bill, value is 100 rupee, face value is 100, maturity period is 91 days. Government will sell it to you at 95 rupees. Government will sell it to you at 95, and upon maturity, that is after 91 days, government will simply give you 100 rupees. So is the logic okay here? Even in case of treasury bills, we follow the concept of zero coupon. The term zero coupon can be applied, or the concept of zero coupon can be applied in money market also, can be applied in the capital market also. Right? So all of you okay with that concept of zero coupon bonds? So one was, right, one was basically the idea of the convertible. Second one is non-convertible. Third one is zero coupon, and the fourth one, after this we'll stop today, right? Fourth one is a concept of indexed bonds. Fourth one is a concept of indexed bonds, right? The idea of a indexed bond. Now, what is this? Okay, many of you are asking, what is the use of zero coupon bonds? My dear, in the market, there's a lot of demand for zero coupon bonds. There is a lot of demand for zero coupon bonds. Let me prove it to you. Let me prove it to you. Sir, many of you ask, why, sir? Why will people prefer or invest in zero coupon bonds? Imagine, okay, again imagine. Imagine after 30 years, you want 30 lakh rupees by investing in the market. I'll repeat the statement. Whatever money you're investing, after 30 years, you want 30 lakh rupees from the market. In such situation, don't you think zero coupon bonds is a better type of investment for you? Let me know. Please think rationally and do let me know. If you want 30 lakh rupees after 30 years, would you not prefer to invest in zero coupon bonds, which will guarantee 30 lakh rupees upon maturity after 30 years? What if you are planning to purchase a home after 10 years and you need 50 lakh rupees? Don't you think investing in zero coupon bonds will guarantee certain amount after 10 years? Yes or no? Right? So I hope you understand there are all the types of investors in the market. There are all the types of investors. Somebody would say, I don't want any kind of risk. For you, government bonds are there. Somebody would simply say, I want very, very high returns. I am willing to take risk. Then stock market is there. Somebody will say, sir, I want somewhere in between. Not very high risk also, not very low risk also. Mutual funds are there. So I hope you understand the logic. I hope you understand. I hope you understand the logic. There are different types of investors. There are different types of investors as per their requirement. As per their requirement, right, different types of instruments are there in the market. Okay, right? So, okay. Anyways, next one, indexed bonds. Next one is indexed bonds. Now, what is the concept of indexed bonds? Let me give a very simple example to begin with. Imagine you'll purchase this particular bond. Let me start with an example. Imagine you'll purchase this bond. Now, please tell me, does it mean every year you will earn 6 rupees from me? Yes or no? Start by the way. Imagine you will purchase this particular bond. Does it not mean every year you are going to earn guaranteed 6 rupees? But tell me, whatever returns I'm going to give to you, is it connected or is it going to be affected by the inflation rate in the market? Yes or no? The returns that you're going to earn, will that be affected in the sense the actual returns, real rate of returns? Will your real rate of returns be affected by inflation rate in the economy? Yes or not? We have discussed this. Inflation. Please go back. Just like you keep money in your bank account, just like you keep money in fixed deposit. If you are going to earn 6 rupees after 1 year, right? After 1 year, you will earn 6 rupees. What if inflation rate is also 6%? It means your real rate of returns is 0 rupees. Your real rate of returns becomes 0 rupees. Go back to inflation. Read inflation again. Which means generally when you invest in a bond, you know there is going to be an effect of inflation on your earning. So don't you think because of that you will demand higher coupon rate from bonds? Yes or no? Because of that, will you not demand higher coupon rate or yield rate from the bonds? Of course, yes, you should demand it, by the way. Don't say so, no sir, I'm very good, I'm very humble, right? So I will not demand higher coupon rate. No, my dear, you should demand it. Why? If inflation rate is 6% and this instrument will give you a yield of 6%, is there any benefit of investing in such instrument? Absolutely no. Your real rate of returns becomes 0% then. So I hope you understand. This is point number one. Point number two, what if I say, another example, what if I say, I will issue a bond, I will issue a bond and I will give you a coupon rate of 4%, but listen to me carefully, but whatever amount I'm giving you in that year, whatever coupon amount I'm giving you, I will adjust that with inflation. Is it okay? I'll repeat the process here again. Listen carefully. I will issue one more type of bond to you, but at lesser rate of interest, coupon rate 4%, right? At a lesser rate of interest, that is at 4%. But what I'm telling you, if I'm giving you, let's say, 4 rupees, after 1 year, if I'm giving you 4 rupees, and if the inflation rate is 10%, I will increase the amount by 10%. I will simply increase the amount, the coupon amount, by 10% to you. Can I say this is nothing but inflation indexed bond? Yes or not? Let me know. Can I refer to this as inflation indexed bond? What am I doing here? I'm connecting the returns. I am linking the returns with an external parameter such as inflation. Now, please tell me, on one side, there is a bond which will offer 6% to you, but inflation will affect you. Inflation will affect you, right? Returns will be affected by inflation. But on the other side, I'm offering one more bond with inflation indexation. Don't you think my coupon rate will be less than 6%? Yes or no? My coupon rate should be less than 6%. Why? Am I not providing you more security by indexing the bond returns to inflation? I'll repeat the statement. If you're confused, listen carefully. On one side, I will issue this bond. No, I'm not going to be worried about inflation. That is your headache. That is your headache. Okay? Right? Whatever you earn, inflation will affect you. That is your headache, your problem. Second example, I am telling you, don't worry about inflation. If inflation will go up by 10%, I will increase the coupon by 10%, which means I'm offering you more security. Which means if I offer you more security, coupon rate, I will not give you 6%. I will give it less than 6%. All of you are able to understand this? All of you are okay with this? So ultimately, because this was asked by UPSC, ultimately, can I say, if government will provide indexation, inflation indexation to the bonds, the interest rate, the burden of interest rate for the issuer, that is government, the burden of interest rate can be reduced. Yes or no? Right, I'll repeat it again. If government will issue inflation indexed bonds, or any issuer who will issue inflation indexed bonds, because they are offering you more security, so automatically cost, that is interest rate, will become lower for them. That is the importance. Remember, this was asked by UPSC. technicality, but once you understand, it's just a game. Higher safety, lower returns. I hope you understand. In market, there is a mantra: higher risk, higher returns. But are you not taking a lower risk by investing in inflation index bonds? Yes, you are taking a lower risk. If you're taking a lower risk, returns, that is interest rate or coupon rate, will also be lower. It makes perfect sense, by the way. Now, let me give you one example. Let me give you one example. And after this, we'll stop. And don't worry about questions. We'll solve questions. If not today, tomorrow. Don't worry. Don't panic. I'm not going to skip it. How the inflation indexation will happen? Let's assume there's a bond which has a maturity period of 2 years. Okay, there's a bond which has been issued which has a maturity period of 2 years. Coupon rate is 10%. Coupon rate is 10%. Coupon rate, hypothetical number, 10%. Now let's start. From 2020 to 2021, 1 year has passed. Inflation rate is 6%. From last year to this year, inflation has increased by 6%. So instead of just giving you 10 rupee, I hope you understand, 10% of 100 rupee will be how much? 10 rupee. All of you agree with me? 10% of 100 rupee will be 10 rupee. So instead of just giving you 10 rupee, I will increase the coupon rate by rate of inflation. That will be 60 paisa. All of you okay with this calculation? If you're finding this difficult, take a calculator, start calculating. 6% of 10 rupee will be how much? It will become 60 paisa. I will give you 10 rupees 60 paisa in coupon. Second year, let's say it has matured. The bond has matured. But from the issuing year, the inflation rate has increased by 10%. The price levels have increased by 10%. So what will I do? I will change the principal by 10%. From 100 rupee, it will become 110. And the coupon rate, instead of giving you 10 rupee, I will simply increase the 10 rupee by 10%. That will become 1 rupee. So I will give you a coupon of 11 rupee. So all of you are okay with this calculation? Do not by heart calculation. What you should observe is, in this example or the calculation that I've given here, as the inflation will keep on increasing, the interest rates, right, or the coupon that is paid to you will also get adjusted. Principal will also get adjusted in order to address the issue of inflation rate. Right, so these bonds, such type of bonds are called as inflation indexed bonds. Earlier, right, back in 1990s, government of India has actually tried out with inflation index bonds, has not worked out very well, hence discontinued. We do not have inflation indexed bonds in India today. Okay, so these are certain types of bonds. Tomorrow we'll start with sovereign gold bonds. Questions are there, right? We'll take up questions tomorrow. Don't worry, right? Sovereign gold bonds will start from here tomorrow. Okay, now any questions, any doubts, any questions, etc., let me know. If there is a deflation, please understand, if there's a deflation, your principal amount is generally protected. Your principal amount, 100 rupee, it is protected. They will not reduce the principal amount. Okay. What if the person B did not provide money after 30 days to the financier done? There are two options. One, there is a concept of insurance for financiers now, which has been introduced. Insurance is also available for financiers. Second, if you don't repay the loan, right, it's basically a money, right? It's a loan, type of a loan. If you don't repay the money, then you can be dragged to IBC. Okay. Sir, in indexed bond, coupon rate and principal both are adjusted or only coupon rate? Generally, there is an option available. The issuer will tell you. Generally, the principal is indexed at the time of maturity. Right? When they are about to repay to you, they will index with inflation and they will pay you the amount. Which financial newspaper is good? Right? Again, all the financial newspapers are good. You pick up one and stick to that. Pick up one and stick to that. Any one financial newspaper, you please pick it up and stick to that only. Zero coupon bonds. Zero coupon. Arey Baba. What do you mean by coupon? What do you mean by coupon? Coupon is nothing but interest rate. If I issue a bond, If the value of the bond is 100, if I issue it at less than 100 and upon maturity I give you 100, then there is no coupon calculated. Hence it is called as a zero coupon. Sir, how you write 110 inflation index? My dear, after 2 years I said a maturity period. That you people don't listen. That's a problem. Please play this video again after it is made available. I stated that assume a bond has a maturity period of 2 years. So after 2 years, the principal amount is adjusted with inflation. Okay. Okay. Anything else? If inflation becomes -2, then investors will incur loss? No, might. I've answered this already. If there is a deflation, principal amount is protected. They will not change the principal amount. They'll keep it at 100 rupees only. Okay. Will you tell at the end of the class a strategy for revision? What do you mean by end of the class? After the 24th class? And yes, at the end of the 24th class, I'll tell you. Okay. Done then. Let me stop the discussion today here. Okay, let me stop the discussion today here. Tomorrow we can start. Tomorrow we can start the discussion regarding sovereign gold bond. Questions are there from the fiscal policy. We'll take up the questions tomorrow. Okay. So let's stop the discussion today here. See you tomorrow sharp at 5 p.m. Okay.